Hello everybody, how are we doing? Give me 1 second here. Why is my camera, I think my camera like shifted, hold on. It did. Might be a little bit better, slash not, maybe. Yeah, that's fine. It works, it works, it works. What's up everybody? Welcome on in to the first portfolio review stream that I've ever done. That's like the official thing. Like we've done some one-offs here and there, but we never really done an official one. So that's what we're doing today. Alright, let's see. Make sure my chat's up. My sleep schedule is once again fucked, so I just finished cooking dinner at 2 a.m. Let's go. Hell yeah. 2 a.m. dinner's the best. What's up, Bailey? What's up, Sriram? Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today on YouTube. I do appreciate it. I know you guys are used to me doing all of the platforms. Gonna be doing some extra stuff, kind of exclusive to YouTube going forward, so I think it'll be good. But yeah, so today we're doing portfolio reviews. So if you guys submitted your portfolios, I'm super stoked to look at them. I'm going to try to be as constructive as possible and make sure that I give you guys as much information as possible, because the last thing I want to do is leave you with like questions. So let's see here. I'm not necessarily sure how I want to go about this. Let me see. Because I see you guys in chat, and I'm wondering if I should just go off of who's in chat so far, and then just go off the top. Let's see. I know we have. Let's see. Your community is getting super popular. My friends from uni even send me reels now down here in Australia. That's awesome, man. I love to hear that. That's really cool. That's awesome. That's that's all we can hope for. So I'm glad that people are enjoying what I do and enjoying the content I post, and so that's why this year we're going to try some new stuff. You said my name right, thank you. I try so hard. I'm so bad at it, but I'm glad I got it right. Let's see. How do I want to go about this? Do I want to go by just who first submitted it, or who... Because everyone has different names all over the place. I think we'll just go by first submission. we'll just go by the list. If one of you guys ends up like having to leave or something like that, let me know in chat, and I'll see if we can jumpstart to yours on the next one. But otherwise, I think we'll just go through. The cool thing is that if you're coming into this late or if you're anything like that, it's YouTube, so you can actually rewind. So if you miss it or anything like that, you can rewind. If you miss the stream altogether, the VOD will still be there. I'm leaving it up. I'm not taking it down or anything like that. So I just want to thank you all again for submitting. I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but we got 31 submissions that I'm going to try my best to get through every single one of them. So hopefully we do. Alright, so the first one that we're going to go through is Lenux Copta. Let's see here. I'm going to open these all on a separate screen just so I can make sure there's no nudity in them first, because the last thing I want to do is get demonetized. So I looked at a few, so many talented people. There's a lot of really talented people in here, so I'm really excited to see what we got here. A couple people submitted on platforms that I didn't even know you could post portfolios to, like this one actually. So this is Linux's portfolio. Let's see here. Let's get this. Yeah, we're good there. All right, and this is on the rookies. I didn't even know you could do this on the rookies. So that's going to be something I do probably when I get ready to post a tank. Yeah, the rookies. So if you guys don't know what the rookies is kind of like they're kind of like a group of people that try to get or like bring exposure to people, especially like VFX artists and stuff like that. So I didn't know you could do portfolios on their site, which is super cool. I am actually on, what's the one that I'm on called? I forgot what it's called. I haven't used it in a little bit. Frame 240. Frame 240 is the one that I'm on. But I'm for sure going to join the rookies because I like what they do. I like their whole mission and job. So, all right. So we're looking at Lenux. Lenux has been in the community for a while, so super stoked to be able to give some good stuff, some good opinions here. I know they're super popular for recruiters, or were for recruiters before the strikes. Really interesting. Well, that's cool. All right, so a lot of this stuff I've seen just because Lenux posts in the Discord, but let's go ahead and take a look at some of this stuff. I want to see. I'm not used to how these guys' website works, so this is a little bit different. All right, so Lenux, we're going to look at these light posts first. Okay, so you did some like vintage light posts. Let's see. All right, so this looks like it's low poly assets. So okay. So right off the bat, the biggest thing I noticed with this one is you did really good with your textures. Like your textures are looking really solid. You've got this really nice brick, and then this kind of like almost like gravelly material inside the brick. So like you've got a nice mixture here on your base. The thing that stands out to me the most, though, is the fact that these are kind of like they're performing like mesh lights almost. So when you're working with like light posts and stuff like that, especially if you're like, say you're out for a walk or something like that in a park, you want to look at how these are casting light. So I know in 3D a lot of times we're just trying to fake like the way the light looks. But one of the big things we want to do when we're setting up renders like this is we want to show that light kind of casting. What shadows is it creating? What sort of like diffusion is happening with the light itself? And so when you're doing physical lights like this, it's really important to think of them in a physical way. Not so much as a way that you're just like, ah, okay, cool, this is going to look like a light. But how is this light going to affect your scene? I know this is a little bit different just because this is like a kind of like a combination of like what you would use for like environment assets. But the only thing that's what really stands out to me is the fact that there's no, down here, there's no light play on the floor, the ground plane. So you have no kind of dispersion of that light going on. So that's something that I would kind of adjust there. Otherwise, you know, they're definitely kind of like simple models. You tried to do like a variety here. I like the design of this one in the center. That one's really cool. I do think it would be cool to see these with a little bit more like depth when it comes to their textures, because right now their textures are very like just kind of like a base metal that was slapped on there and then some rust applied. But otherwise, just some things to think about. The glass, you did really good with the glass here. When you're working with lights, like especially like physical lights like this, you really want to make sure that you are showing the internals of it, because otherwise you just have like this floating glass bulb. or this like bowl kind of thing. And so that's something you want to make sure that you're kind of sharing that fidelity. I know with a game asset that might be a little bit different, or might be a little difficult to do. But just throwing an extra sphere in there to kind of show like, hey, there's a bulb in here would be super helpful. And then from that bulb, that's where you would want your light source to be. And then you can kind of play with things like diffusion, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that. But again, your floor texture is really cool here. I like that. Let's see. Let's take a look at this one because this is a larger environment piece. We'll take a look at that thorough. I'm going to try to do at least like 3 pieces from each portfolio just because we got so many. So I remember when you were building this one. So really cool design. I like that you worked in a lot of the critiques that you got, especially when it came to like how the windows are framed. Overall, this looks pretty nice. The big thing that I'm noticing right now is your roof texture. Your roof texture doesn't really stand out very well. I don't know if there's another image that actually kind of shows it. Let's see. Yeah. The roof looks a little plain, and I know it's, you know, it's flat, but this is where you could get involved with like, oh my god, it's my first time using my tablet for this, so you'll have to excuse me. With the roof, that's a really good kind of, it's a good way to start looking at using bump maps and height maps, because you can start kind of extracting value out of it when you're just using textures instead of like actually adding that geometry in. So as far as texturing goes on this one, what I feel lacks is it lacks a little bit of depth, and it lacks a little bit of use. So being that this is a building, this is an old building on, you know, kind of like a desolate prairie, you'd have things building up like dust and scum and weeds and things like that. And, you know, you've got some really good like vegetation down here, which I can appreciate the environment. But the house kind of feels like it's just floating there. It feels like it doesn't like exist in this like area. So like you have this really like detailed environment, which looks really, it honestly looks really solid. But where it kind of falls apart is your textures aren't really like, they're not really showing up there. So like they feel very 3D, and that's what we're trying to avoid with this stuff. So when it comes to old houses like this, so if we look up like, hold on. So we look at an old house, right? And we look at like kind of the way these like degrade and kind of get dirty. So you have different shades of hues on the roof tiles. You have dirt building up along the bottom of the building. So these are the things that we look for when we're texturing, is like, does the asset fit where it's trying to belong, right? So like, does this thing actually exist in the space properly? And I think that's where we kind of, oops. I think that's where it kind of gets a little lost. Can we? Thank you. But otherwise, your modeling is really solid. Like, things are looking good. I know you do a lot of low poly stuff, so it makes sense that your assets are low poly. I just think that texturing-wise, it's probably a good idea to start looking at how you can kind of increase your skills as a texturing artist, because that's going to be the next thing you want to do to kind of take your portfolio to the next level. And then let's look at one more piece. So this is the most recent one you did that you posted about. And I feel like you're already starting to do that, which is really awesome. So what we talked about just a few seconds ago, you're already starting to show kind of this like aging, which is awesome. So you've got this like roughness and this like distortion on the couch. What I do notice is that there should be some sort of like fraying along the edge of this, because if you ever look at like old couches and stuff, they like kind of like crack and fray, especially like old leather couches. But I like that you're kind of pushing it here. You're challenging yourself to do some new textures, and you're working in some new details that you didn't have before, you didn't do before. Same thing with like these older books. Overall, this scene looks really nice. The only thing that's really throwing me off is this light. I don't know where this is coming from, because it looks like, yeah, so you have a ceiling. So really all of your light should be coming from either these windows or these windows, like however you want your light pouring in. This looks like it's coming from the ceiling somehow. So like there's a light up here in the rafters. So that's my big critique there. This light doesn't belong here. I think that if you were to say nix that light and then add some spill light from your windows, a little bit of environment fog, you'll have a really, really gorgeous put together scene there. But this is just overshadowing the entire scene. Everything else is looking really good. I feel like if you just kind of tweaked your lighting in this, you'd probably be pretty solid. Like here you did a great job. I think it's because this light is the one that's casting it. If this were a little bit lower and coming from this window, perfect, beautiful. So overall, your texturing is getting better here. I like that you've got some, like, your blanket actually looks fuzzy. That's one of the harder things to do with cloth, is to make them actually look, you know, like cloth. So I like what you're doing here. You're getting a lot better with your texturing and like your detail when it comes to like eyeing things that are like falling apart or damaged. The scene's set up really nicely. You did a good job on your pillows. Pillows can be a tough one just because usually to do them properly, you either have to sculpt them or do like a cloth sim. And again, the low poly, so you do the low poly wireframe. So we're not really super concerned here about topology. But no, otherwise, like this scene is really good. This is a good setup. I would just look at fixing this light because it's just overpowering everything. I know what you're trying to do, and it does look good in this image, but in the rest of it, it just kind of overpowers the scene. So that's what I would take a look at there. Otherwise, you have a really solid progression. And even like speaking to like your piano piece, the piano piece showed a lot of like grunge and degradation on the textures. So like I can tell you're actually working really hard to like figure out your texturing. So I can appreciate the kind of the upwards momentum that you have with your texturing. That's looking really good. So good job, man. Yeah, good job. You're learning quick, and it's definitely evident. Thank you for the bit, Roy. All right, so let's go move on to the next one. What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? We're gonna move on to Salem or Salem. It's either Salem or Salem. I cannot open that on that screen first. Hold on. Just gotta make sure. Okay, cool. I have to double check them for nudity just in case. Okay, so because even if it's artistic nudity, YouTube doesn't like it. All right, so this is Salem's. Or Salem, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I'm good, excited for tonight. What are you doing tonight? All right, so let's start over here. So I like this spaceship, so we're going to start at the spaceship. All right, cool. So this is like a, let's see, the spaceship is created based on Star Citizen. Okay, cool, nice. Transportation vehicle. All right. So this is a nice little hard surface asset. So right off the bat, the only thing, let's see. So I like that you're adding some like scrape details here in the paint, so the paint's not as uniform. That's nice. Let's see. But I do feel like they're just kind of added, and they're not like purposeful. So let's take a look at this and break this down a little bit. So if we look at this, I like the design. You've got a really nice, unique design to your ship. The silhouette is pretty nice. It's kind of yeah, I like your silhouette. Okay, so let's talk about texturing, because I think texturing is kind of the biggest thing here for me right now. So looking at this, let's look at your window here. So we're going to expand this, and then, can I zoom in this way? Oh, you monster. Fine, I'll do it that way. Okay. Sent to DM. Okay, cool, I'll take a look. It gives Subnautica vibes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so texturing wise, it looks like you kind of worked here to kind of like add that like re-entry burn. So with ships and spaceships and stuff, right, like we're always looking at like the way they get damaged when they come back into atmosphere. So if I pull up like the space shuttle. So let's take a look at the space shuttle after re-entry. Or on display, this works too. You can see how like grunged up this gets, and how just like very non-uniform the textures are. That's one thing that I'm seeing here that I don't like, is just how uniform everything is. So when we're talking about something, especially from Star Citizen, where like the universe is like kind of used, unless you're buying one of those really expensive ships, we're always looking to find those little areas where dirt and dust and debris are building up. So you're talking about like these vents would have like debris built up. That's kind of my big pet peeve when it comes to texturing, is that, again, they don't feel like they're actually set up to exist in these worlds. I like what you're doing with this, like the afterburners. They give off that nice blue glow. Everything otherwise there is looking really good. The glass material I would take a look at, because you're getting sort of this weird, like almost parallaxing here. That might be due to the mesh. That might be due to just using like an opacity material instead of like an actual glass-based material. Look at your like index of refraction and the way that glass actually operates in 3D. Those are really important things to kind of keep in mind when you're working on stuff like this. And then it doesn't say, is this a low poly asset? Let's see. Detail lacking. 200. Doesn't say whether it's a low poly or a high poly asset, but no, I mean, otherwise this is a really cool attempt at a spaceship. I would just start to look at texturing when it comes to stuff like that. So let's go look at the rest of your portfolio. Okay, and I can see that you have this really nice like gradual improvement, so I'm excited to see like what we've got here. So let's take a look at this prop, because I'm not much of an environment artist myself, but okay. So looking here, and 1 second, let me check something, because I just want to make sure I don't forget to check it. Oh, nice. That'll be cool, Roy. That's exciting. That's super exciting. All right, so looking at this guy. So definitely a low poly asset, but I can see right off the bat that you have some texel density issues. So let's see, do you post your UV in here at all? Let's see, so there's your geometry. Okay, so your geometry is definitely like low poly base. You've got your hair cards for the base of the blade. So, okay, so your geo looks good. You just don't have enough resolution in your textures. So whether this is because you outputted like a low polygon or a low resolution texture, or you just had low resolution texel density, you definitely want to figure that out, because you can tell how like blurry these are. And like the last thing we want is like our textures to be like, we spend a lot of time on our textures and then they turn out like hazy. So that's one thing I would look at here, just as a general rule. I don't know if you modeled the table. The table looks pretty good. It looks like the texel density is pretty even on that. Your environment's really nice. I like how you set up this little environment to kind of render the sword in multiple times. When it comes to your portfolio, probably just leave this out. If you can find an image of the sword and then label this as like concept art, probably do that. But this feels a little dirty. Like it just kind of mucks up your portfolio a little bit. And then otherwise, taking a look at this, I like that you showed your wireframes. That's one thing that's really important, guys. Like showing your wireframes, showing your UVs, stuff like that. Like when you're talking to people who are looking to hire you, they want to see that you understand the workflows that they're looking to hire you for. So like showing that your UVs are set up properly, showing that your topology looks good, things like that, super important. So this is a nice piece. I would just take a look at your texel density and make sure your textures are high resolution. It looks like going through the rest of this, like you seem to have like kind of figured that out with this one. It looks like you got a little bit higher resolution on your textures, which is nice. Clay renders are good. I always try to just kind of combine my clay render with my wireframe render. That way it kind of takes care of two of them and doesn't make the portfolio piece too big. Let's see. I'm not going to go over materials just because I'm not really a material guy. But let's look at your sword, because I know this is your most recent piece. I love that you did the little animated video. That's a really good way to kind of elevate your portfolio pieces. It's something that even if you're doing just like a rotational, super good to have in your piece. So I love that you did that. Your reflections on the blade are looking really nice. Maybe a little bit of roughness would be cool, just to show like the differentiation, I don't know, one of those words, in the blade, because metal's never like perfectly clean like that. Like even if it's chromed, it's gonna have some sort of scuff, for like just a little bit of grunge always kind of goes a long way to sell. My big thing here is the lighting is super duper orange. So when it comes to like your lighting, if you're trying to do like candlelight or something like that, being careful with how you place your lights. So when you talk about like medieval stuff, This was a big issue with Game of Thrones. So Game of Thrones, they tried to do like candlelit scenes, and they were always too dark. So with scenes like this, you're always trying to find ways to make your scene not super dark, but also make it, visible. So being strategic with lights, I think, would be a better idea. The way that I would probably go about this is I would have one light source being like either like a fireplace or something that's casting light into the scene, and then using candles to like kind of fill the rest of the areas that I need to showcase the object, and then allowing some of that light to just kind of fake white, because candlelight you can kind of fake into being white. You can usually get away with it. It's kind of hard with fires, but overall I think just in general here, lighting wise, you could just tweak it a little bit and have a much more like put together scene, because right now it's just super duper orange. Oh no, you do have grunge in there. Okay, I like that you have those variations. Okay, sweet. You just didn't see it really well in the animation. Let's see. Okay, cool. So that's all looking good. I know these types of blades usually look like that. The only thing that I'm wondering is, did you do stitching on the other side? Because normally with a blade wrap like that, it's a single piece of leather that gets wrapped around the blade and then stitched down the middle. So that would be something I would take a look at. Tobiah, if you want to, drop it in the Discord. I think you're in the Discord. And if I can get to it, I will get to it today. I don't mind doing an extra one. But otherwise, yeah, great presentation. I like that you're still showing your wireframe, stuff like that. I'd like to see your UVs. I still am a proponent of sharing UVs, and let me give you an example of like what I mean by that. So if I go to my ArtStation, just as an example, you don't have to just like show your UVs in just like a single image. I like to do stuff like this. So find ways that you can showcase portions of your work together. So if you want to show your UV tiles, paste them on a screen of your model with the UV tiles on it. Same thing with like wireframes or clay renders. If you're going to do one or the other, just make sure you try to combine them just to kind of save a little bit on the fluff. But otherwise, I love what you're doing. You've got some really good stuff coming. This sword is definitely your strongest piece so far, and I'm excited to see what else you do, because you got some good skills going on. All right, so let's close that. We don't need that anymore. Just do this real quick. Let's open the next one. Let's see. All right, so that was. So I'm going to start deleting these, just to mark them as done. Delete. Let's see. Delete. This is going to be a long stream. It's already been 30 minutes. Okay, so we're going to look at Shivam. All right, Shivam. This is the one I was really excited to when I first initially saw it. Okay, so your setup here is pretty awesome. It's pretty ridiculous, man. This is really solid work. I think my only like big issue is the lack of playing with color. Yeah, like your geometry looks really clean. Your panel lines on the car look super solid. Everything that you would expect out of an automotive like model, you're getting here. This looks super great. The only thing that I would kind of critique here is your door is really dense for some reason. And I can't tell why it's so dense. I know you have a lot of topology going on here, but I feel like some of this could be removed just because this looks like you're going for a high poly asset. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not going for a high poly asset. But if you're not going for a high poly asset, these doors definitely need to be reduced. You can do that by localizing your topology to the handle and just kind of cleaning that in a little bit and then running these off. So you can take these edges and kind of run them off into other edges, and that way they just kind of disperse and disappear. And then when you subdivide, it'll work and it'll just kind of stay clean. It also may be that, actually, you know what, honestly, looking at this, maybe you just subdivided the door too much. I don't know. I'd be curious what you did there. That's the only thing that really stands out there. I like that you did a rotational wireframe. That's nice. That's cool. It gives a really good, like, just view of, like, the work you did topology-wise. Like, that's very solid. I really like that piece. This one... This one kind of blew me away. The amount of work that you put into this is actually very, very impressive. So, I believe this was off of the Batmobile, right? Like, this is the engine from the Batmobile. You definitely went into, like, extreme detail with this. And it for sure shows. Your topology looks super solid. I don't have any issues with that there. Obviously, this wouldn't be the type of asset that you use, like, in a big, complex scene. This would be for, like, a super close-up or whatever. Like, this is not something that you'd use in a regular VFX shot. So, having all this detail is super, super cool. Just understanding, though, that it wouldn't necessarily be practical all of the time in, like, VFX shots or anything like that. But, honestly, like, I have no complaints here. You've got some really solid hard surface skills. And I think this was kind of just like a... I'd like to know a little bit more. You got to talk about your pieces. There you go. There's a critique for you. Talk about your pieces. Talk about why you did them and what your goals were for them, because that's something that I personally always like to see an artist talking about. Yeah, I mean, just the amount of detail, though. Like, you did really well here. How do you even get enough reference for that? It's insane. Yeah. Oh, hey, look. He provided his reference. Good lord, man. I love that you shaped it like a bat. You get points for that. Points for shaping it like a bat. And then it looks like you actually took the engine. You took the engine and put it in the Batmobile. So you took that a step further, which is even cooler. My biggest thing, yeah, honestly, the biggest thing I'm seeing from your portfolio, I just want to see some color. I know you kind of have like a theme going on here with this like dark gray, silver, black sort of thing, but it would be awesome to see some color and some play with texture, because, you know, looking at the Batmobile, right, like that thing is kind of beaten up, and so you want to show that in your work. And I'm pretty sure, let's see, is this still like a work in progress? Yeah, so you're still working on this, so that's totally cool. Just be careful with like WIP stuff. So like adding work in progress work to your portfolio is fine. Just label it. But otherwise, like, your modeling skills here are very solid. This stuff, let's see, that, okay. Probably could remove that just because that's in your other piece. But yeah, it looks like you built a whole car. You built the engine, then built the car around the engine, which is just super dope. Yeah, I don't really have any concerns or complaints. Tire could probably be reduced a little bit topology-wise, but that's just a nitpick. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any complaints here. Your details. Just, again, be careful with these repeating pieces, because you do have these in the other one. You can refine your portfolio entries just by not including all this stuff. But honestly, super clean work, super sick work. I love what you're doing. You're definitely on the high tier of, like, good topology, clean modeling, so that's super awesome. And I know you can texture, because you've got some really beautiful textures on this. What is this? Is this a Porsche? What is that? Car H6. Oh, it's a concept car. Yeah. Super clean. I'd just like to see a little bit of color. Just a little bit. But super good job, man. What software you use? It looks like, no, it looks like Blender. Yeah, all they use is Blender. You can do some amazing stuff in Blender, guys. That's why I don't make fun of the software. I make fun of the people who jump on my comments and make fun of me for using Maya. All right, so yeah, overall, Shivam, sweet job, man. That looks awesome. Let's go ahead and delete that one. And guys, if you see your portfolio pieces disappearing from this, don't worry. I'm going to delete the whole channel when we're done with this anyway. So, Ron, you sent in your Instagram profile. I got to open that in Chrome because I'm not logged into the... Or am I? No, I'm not. Hold on a second. Paste. Let me open this in Instagram here. Okay, so Ron sent in their Instagram. All right, so you've got some environment stuff. You've got some vehicle stuff. So let's go. Let's look at some UVs. Okay, what do we got here? Nice, nice. Okay. So we're going to just pick a couple pieces to look here and nitpick at. That one looks a little bit older than, like, say, this one. So let's take a look at this one. Major final project spaceship was modeled and textured by me. Special thanks to Samy for the space environments. Okay, cool. Let's see. Am I able to? No, I'm not. Okay. So, oh, I can pause on Instagram. So right off the bat, one of the biggest things I'm noticing here, you're using bump maps, but you're getting super close to them. So that's kind of like, it's one of those things that you want to, oh, hold on. One of those things that you kind of want to avoid is getting super duper close to bump maps because they don't hold up. They hold up really well far away. When you're getting close up, that's when you want to start breaking into the realm of using height maps and subdivided surfaces, so your height maps actually subdivide the geometry and pull it out. But with projects like this, you definitely don't want to get that close because you can see the distortion that you're getting along here. You can see kind of how it just like fades almost, so you don't get to see the detail. But then as you get further away, it starts to look better. So with bump maps, don't get that close to them. A neat ship design. So I'm guessing this is probably your UV messing up here, but your pattern down here is getting really chewed up. So I'm guessing there's something going on with your UV there. When it comes to changes in surface on any sort of object, you want to have some sort of transition. And so when you're talking about like changing material types, whether that's going to be like a panel line or some sort of modeled piece that changes that material type, you want to have some sort of transition because naturally when we look at things in like, say like an airport at the airplane or an airplane at the airport. Wow, I said that backwards. When you look at them, they're made up of all of these panels. And generally when there's a massive like shift in material type, it's separated by something. They're not like melded together like this. And so relying on your UV lines to separate them, it ends up looking really kind of just cheap. And so that's something we want to avoid is we don't want our separation of materials to look cheap like that. It works up here because you're just kind of like doing a paint shift, but you can tell that this is a totally different material. Let's see. Modeling wise, it's definitely a little bit simple, but you're getting some really good form in here. I like the design of the ship. I think you've got some really cool, like the larger engines on the wings. What I'd like to see is a little bit more like mechanics because you've got your landing gear here, right? But your landing gear doesn't have any like any difference to it. So again, we'll go back to kind of like an airplane. Let's look at that. So we look at the landing gear on an airplane. It changes quite a bit. That's the smallest picture ever. Oh my god, why are these all so small? Images. Okay. So that's funky. So you can see how like the landing gear always changes. And so even with spaceships, we want to kind of add that extra texture in there and just create something that's a little bit different. And so one of the easiest ways that you could do that is by flipping it around, adding a few extra pieces, or just adding some sort of other designed mechanism that still looks functional, but provides just a little bit of difference in shaping. Where am I? Chrome. Because you look at this and you're like, okay, these are all the same object. So that's what we want to avoid, is having it look like the same object over and over again. I like all your dust sims and everything like that. That's super cool. It kind of, unfortunately, it's kind of hiding your engines. I feel like you don't want to hide your engines because you want to show off the modeling you did for them. So that's maybe something to take a look at. You've got some good environment lighting going on. I love that you have this like transition. That's really cool. The lighting is really nice. It would just, again, be helped by having it like actually like physically transition into this new material instead of just like texturally. But really cool. I mean, it's a really cool like little project that you did. I love that you did all these little animations and everything like that. again, with projects like this, just getting so close to these normal maps can be really difficult, and it can kind of like degrade the quality of your work, because like from far away it looks great, and like in video games we see it all the time. Like from far away things look awesome, but then you get really close to something, you can see all the pixels and everything like that. So when you're doing work like this, the last thing you want to do is zoom in and see like the lowest quality version of it. What you want to do is just show kind of like further ones away. Not on your Discord yet. All good, no worries. Next time. Thank you though. Of course, Tobiah. So some good updates on that one. So let's look at this one. This is kind of tough because like it's really hard to tell like what you actually have going on here because of all the filters. So the model looks good. I just can't tell what your textures are. I can't tell kind of what anything else is because you've got this like flickering material on. So this is one thing that I will suggest to you for the next time. Build yourself an ArtStation account and then upload this stuff to ArtStation, and then have the raw, like the more raw versions of it. Don't stick filters and stuff on it, because one of the best ways to just kind of turn people away from your portfolio is to have some overly processed stuff on your portfolio that doesn't show like what the actual result was. Like color grading, that's a different thing. Like you can do a little bit of color grading, you can do a little bit of adjustment, that's fine. But when you have like these overly processed filters, that's when you kind of have to start worrying a little bit. So let's see. Small island made in Unreal Engine. Okay, so you're doing all this on Unreal. Okay. I hate how low resolution the Instagram videos are, but I know that's not your fault. Okay. Your vegetation looks really nice here. Your transition between materials on beach and stuff looks pretty good. With games, it's always kind of difficult because there's only so much you can do. Overall, your environment looks really good. Your lighting is it's a little bit harsh, so that sunlight is like super, super bright. And with the time of day, you'd have some highlight, but nothing crazy like that. I can't tell if it's the video. It might be the video, but it looks like your textures might be a little low resolution. You're doing this in Unreal, so you can get away with higher resolution textures. I know you can. Just be wary of that when you're doing stuff. Otherwise, like the way things are sitting look really nice. It's really cool that you did this whole like real-time environment, so that looks really nice. Is that the same video playing over again? I think it is. And then what is this? So some duct work. Okay, cool. I like what you're doing here. These are really nice. So you're doing some like just duct assets. Your texturing is looking really good. Be careful with your edge wear. You have a ton of edge wear, and so when we think about duct work like this, the likelihood that it's going to be painted and torn apart like that is pretty low, unless it's like floor level stuff. So edge wear wise, it's cool to have a little bit of edge wear, but I would definitely pull back on it here, just because you have so much of it that it almost takes away from the fact that these are actually really cool. These are really cool pieces. I just feel like you have a little bit too much edge wear. But I see what you're doing here. You're doing kind of like a modular asset set, so that's really cool. I think you're doing good. I think lighting and texturing are kind of where you need to focus a little bit. I'd like to see a more complicated asset. So like challenge yourself. It seems like you did it with the Camaro. I just can't really tell because of the filters on it. But definitely push yourself a little bit more to do a more complex model, depending on what your focus is. I think that's the other thing that's hard with Instagram, is it's really hard to tell what your focus is. Like, are you trying to be an environment artist? Are you trying to be a hard surface modeler? A prop modeler? Like, what are you trying to do? That's going to be my biggest critique, is I don't really know what you're going for. So maybe build a portfolio on ArtStation, kind of figure out where you want to sit and where you want to do things, or create a generalist portfolio if you're trying to do like generalist work, and separate your stuff into environment art and prop art and, like vehicles and stuff like that. That would be my biggest thing there. So hopefully that helps a little bit there. Let me close Chrome. All right. Cool. Well, that was Ron. And if you guys have questions while I'm doing this, by all means, please ask them in chat. I will try to read them as I can. It's just I try not to like completely ignore chat. This is a little bit different, but for sure, if you guys have a question while I'm going through this, let me know. All right, so we're going to look at Samfi. Samfi's our station, 3D modeling student. All right. Cool. Okay, cool stuff. What do we got here? Oh, we have a tank. Oh, that's right, you did this tank. Okay, cool. All right, so Samfi, I know, has been working on this Lambo. So let's see. Let's look at your first asset that you did here. So this is definitely like one of your first models. That's cool. Shows a good kind of understanding of like where texture builds up. So that's really nice. It's definitely, that looks like it was maybe Z-remeshed. I don't really know what happened there, but it's nice to see you kind of focusing on where texture builds up, because, you know, when we look at these old trucks, you see the rust building up over bumpers, you see it building on curves and corners. I know this asset doesn't really represent your work right now, but I wanted to look at that texture just because that texture was really nice. So let's see, let's look at this fire hydrant. Okay, cool. So this is really nice. Fire hydrant modeling and texturing by Samfi. 1 hour project. Oh, nice, you did this in an hour. Very cool. Okay. Your geometry looks really clean. You don't have any like anything that stands out really badly. Your textures are really good. I would like, when it comes to stuff like this, I guess less is more. So, yeah, no critique there. I like your texturing work here. I like your presentation, what you did. You couldn't remove your Samfi thing from this. I would just remove that. There's no need to kind of put your name on stuff on ArtStation, because it is like your, you know, it's your account, and people are going to click on it and see it. So to me, that's just kind of a nitpick. I would probably remove that, but otherwise, this is a really cool little prop piece. You got a security camera, another little prop piece. I like you do have a really good focus on like where things build up and where grunge builds up. I like that you've got these nice water drips coming down this, so your attention to detail and texturing is really nice. And your assets look really good, clean topology-wise. It looks like you do low poly stuff as well, so yeah, that's really nice. It looks like you did remove that Samfi logo, so that's cool. Oh, no, you didn't. You still left it there. You just moved it. Yeah, I would just remove that. It's just a nitpick of mine, though. Really, with ArtStation, like, use it the way it's built. So use your description page or your description area over here to tell people about the model. Use this to showcase the stuff. You can list your software that you use down here. You're already doing that, so there's no need to include it there. Your inclusion of the textures is really cool. That's totally fine. I would just give that its own like individual tile. But otherwise, that's cool. Military drone. All right, cool. Nice. I looked at this one earlier. So I like what you've got going on here. You've got some really interesting shapes going on. So this is really neat. Okay. I'm not seeing anything that stands out crazily topology-wise. It looks like you've got a really good understanding of like how things are supposed to work and connect together. Let's see. Yeah, no, I don't really have any like critiques there. Oh, and then you got your concept art. Okay, cool. So you did build this off of a concept. Very nice. Yeah, I mean, it looks like you replicated that really well. I'm not seeing anything that stands out, really. I'd like to see this textured. I think it would look really cool textured, but otherwise, like, this is a really nice, solid piece. This is one thing, though, that I do think a lot of people should take into consideration is, like, if you're going to do pieces for your portfolio, finish them. Like, go all the way. It's really important to showcase the range of skills that you have on, especially your bigger pieces, because you got to remember, like, there's a lot of competition out there. We want to make sure that, like, when we get our portfolio in front of somebody, that they don't just see a bunch of, like, gray models or, you know, simply colored objects. We want to show them, like, the best possible thing that we can make. I actually do see a little issue. Not sure what's going on here, but you have this, like, hatching. So I don't know if that's just a mesh issue or a shading issue, but you've got, oh, now it's over here too. So something's going on there. I don't know if that's just, like, the way they were bridged or what, but that would be something I would look at. Otherwise, that's a super cool model. I like that you included your concept piece. And then this tank I've seen, because you've posted it before, did a really cool job on this one. I really love what you did with it. I always like these types of models, though. These, like, compact designs, because they're just cool. The only... Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the tread here. That's kind of strange. So I would probably look at why your tread did that. I don't know if it's supposed to look that way. Did you provide the original concept? Let me see real quick. Oh, you did. Okay, cool. Oh, this is just reference. Okay, I see. Huh, yeah. I would look at why your tread did that. Because right off the bat, looking at that, that just says that, like, you couldn't necessarily figure out how to get that tread to flow properly. And you use Maya, so you can do Mash for these. Mash is really good at actually making sure that this all stays cohesive. So I would take a look at that. But I like your texturing. You probably want to do a little bit more wear on the treads, because just remember with tanks, like, the most wear on the vehicle is going to be on the treads, because that's what's hitting the ground, that's what's being dragged across the environment. Otherwise, it's a super cool little model. I really like that it's, like, almost modular and you could do a lot of changes with it. Let's look at your wireframe. Yeah, your wireframe's really clean. The nice thing is that we're not seeing too many areas which are, like, heavily dense. You're seeing density where you would expect to see density, which is along supported edges and stuff like this. So that's good. Everything else is flowing really nicely here, so I like what I like what you've got going on here. You seem to understand topology pretty well, so that's good. This, I would probably get rid of this, or at least fix this environment texture, because right now everything's kind of blending in together, and so it makes it kind of hard, because, like, initially when you see this, you're like, oh my god, what's going on here? And then you see that you've got this blurry, like, floor texture. And then the other thing that I'm noticing here that's really standing out to me is, like, the chunkiness of these, like, dirt blotches. But it's weird because, like, they don't necessarily look like dirt blotches or mud blotches. So I would probably look at changing the color on stuff like this, if that's truly what those are. Just because it just makes the model look really lumpy. And that's kind of, like, what I would say on that one anyway. Otherwise, like, the model didn't change. You just change your textures, so. This is definitely a better view. Again, you just have this really blurry, like, material underneath here, and it kind of takes away from everything. I like that you've included the background elements. I would probably blur this, just because you can tell it's definitely like an HDRI or a picture. Same thing, though, just the chunkiness. And if this is supposed to be mud, like, you know, mud builds up in, like, areas where it's splashing against when the tank's hitting water and stuff. So you want to make sure that the mud's, like, building up around the edges and it's kind of, like, slopping off. Just little minor things to pay attention to when you're doing your textures. Otherwise, you have a really solid layout with this one. I like that you're still including your reference and stuff like that. Yeah, not too much to say on that one. And then I know you're still working on the Lambda, but let's take a look at this, because you're doing some cool stuff here. I like that you're playing with some color. Color is always good to play with, so it's nice to see. Your panel lines are looking really good. This one's a little gapped, but otherwise, like, I know this is kind of like your first attempt at a vehicle like this, so it's cool to see you progressing through this. And I know you've been posting this in the Discord. It's been awesome to see you working on this. This is where you got to be careful, though, with cars, because you can see how you're getting all this, like, distortion down here. With cars, because they're so glossy and reflective, you have to be really careful and make sure that your topology is very, very clean, because the smallest dent, I mean, you guys have seen it, if your car gets, like, hail damage or anything like that, the smallest dent shows up. So when you're trying to do this, like, crisp, clean car, we want to make sure that we're avoiding any of this damage or any of this, like, distortion. I know this is a work in progress, so you're probably still working on all this, but just stuff to keep in mind. You've got the silhouette of the car down pretty well so far. Let's see. Everything seems pretty good. Your topology is looking really solid. I just would look at these areas. It's these areas of density where you're seeing problems, so I would probably try to find ways to either reduce them or at least disperse that that geometry a little bit. But otherwise, like, this is coming along really well. I don't have any complaints at all. Like I said, it looks like you have a pretty good understanding of topology and workflow, so I wouldn't be super concerned with any of that, just little nitpicky things here and there. I'm excited to see what you do with this project. I like that you got your low poly version too. Isn't that the same geo? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I would. This is okay. So this is kind of showing where some of the areas, the issues might be. So when you're talking about subdividing your models, you have to remember that when you subdivide them, it is going to retain a lot of the base mesh's like flow. So when you have these issues back here, these need to be cleaned as much as possible because you're getting these jagged bends, and so when you subdivide it, you can see how you're getting this dent. So I don't think that's on purpose. Maybe it is, but you can see how your geometry is kind of curving and you're getting this warp. That will show up in your materials when you're doing that reflective car paint, so just be careful with stuff like that. Since you still have the low poly, I would just recommend going through and trying to clean this up as much as possible. But otherwise, yeah, no, I mean, super solid so far. You're getting there. I know this is work in progress, so we're not going to critique that just too hard, but you've got a really good portfolio so far. You show a nice broad range of skills, which is really nice, so keep up the good work, man. All right. Let's see here. We're going to delete that one. Let's see. We're going to look at Satoa. All right, Satoa. Give me 1 second here. Cool. All right. Sweet. So Satoa. So you got 3 projects, which is perfect. Oh, cool. Marmoset viewer. We always like these. Oh, is this just Marmoset viewer? Okay. Well, that's one thing I would fix then. Don't rely so heavily on just Marmoset viewer. It is cool that you can use it, but definitely be careful about relying on it. That's actually really nice that it works with my pen, though. So, okay. Your texturing is pretty good. This is where I have a problem, though, is because like we can't tell what your texture actually is, like quality-wise. And that's just due to the fact that you're only using Marmoset Viewer, because we're loading this up on a web page, so Marmoset's going to use like the lowest quality version possible. So a little hard to tell like what your actual texture quality is. Otherwise, like I like that you've kind of grunged this up a little bit. You have done really good to kind of show the graffiti. The thing that's throwing me off though is that it's the same graffiti over and over again, so it looks like you just kind of threw like a tiled texture on there. So when it comes to something like this, you're talking about like a public facing, booth that would be painted and scratched and scuffed, and so like you've got a lot of that going on, but the fact that you have this repeating cat texture kind of throws it off. So when it comes to details like stickers and graffiti and stuff like that, you want to make sure you're keeping those down to single elements and you're merging them across. So it looks like it's kind of working here. But for instance, if somebody was going to go up and tag this, they're going to tag this whole thing. They're not going to, skip the window. So you'd want to have all of this flowing across the window. You want to have that damage and degradation flowing across the model and not just kind of disappearing and appearing where it's convenient. So really paying attention to where that kind of stuff lands and then not having repeated textures like this is really important. That's going to be my biggest critique for that one. Otherwise, though, this is really cool. I like the way you set this up. This light post could use a little bit more detail, and it's looking a little chunky down here. So I don't know. I would probably just reduce that a little bit because it's like a cast iron light stand, so I get that. I would just reduce that a tad bit because it's looking a little chunky. And then I don't know if Marmoset does transparent materials, but it would be nice to see the inside of this built out. I'm going to sleep now. Good night. It was informative seeing you review work. Hope to see you next time. Have a good night, Shivam. Get some good sleep. Yeah, trash can, I would expect to see the same kind of degradation on the trash can as you have on the phone booth, so just nitpicky things, but I think the main focus, it seems like, is the phone booth, so like just looking at some of these materials, and then that's a problem. So you can see how you just have this as like a single plane that was extruded, and you can see right through it on one side. So cool for like whatever like stationary renders you're doing, but if this was like a a real-time asset, you'd see right through that. So you'd want to seal that up somehow. But no, otherwise like your texturing is getting there. Your UV maybe needs a little bit of work because you can really see your seams. With something like this, you want to keep your seams as reduced as possible. So having one corner that then unfolds into like a solid panel would be the better way to go about that. So just kind of paying attention to just those little minor things would be good. Okay, so we've got this, this like, what is this, a mimic? Chest I don't want to be open. Okay, cool. So, alright. Get a little animated. Is this just a turntable? Okay, cool. Does that go any higher quality? Yes, it does. Okay, so let's look at that real quick. Okay. So, with this one, I like what you did. I like the stylized aspect of it. I think it's really neat. What I think would be really cool, and depends on what your vision is for this, but it looks kind of like it would be a slime monster kind of thing. So, some subsurface scattering on the tentacles would be really cool, I think. It would really just kind of help sell the fact that this is like a creature. Because right now it looks like very rubbery. So you got like these like rubbery tentacles coming out of it. Otherwise, it's a fun model. It's really cool. It's I would spend a little bit more time on texturing, just because to me, it looks like you spent the most amount of time here, and then just kind of threw these teeth in here. And so, like, is this blood? Is the tooth just red? Like, are you trying to add some subsurface scattering in there? And it's just not working. Like, it's kind of confusing on what's happening there. So I think that's just one of those things. Your wireframe looks good for low poly assets, so I'm not going to really critique that at all. Yeah, so you used, wait, did you use UDIMs? No, this is one single tile. Okay, cool. So that explains a little bit. And then you got your reference, that's cool. Oh, you even have color swatches, that's nice. Alright, cool. Yeah, so I mean, otherwise, like, aside from like just looking at your textures and trying to kind of clean them up a little bit, I would just recommend looking at things like subsurface scattering to kind of help sell the fact that this is more of a creature and less of like a rubber toy. Your chest design, like all of this design work is really nice. Like, it's really cool. I like that what you did here. I just would like to see the textures kind of come together a little bit better. I'm nervous about my portfolio review, but I know mine needs a lot of work. That's okay. Don't be nervous. This is to learn. Like, this is so we can all learn together as artists and grow and be better. Like, there's no... I don't want anyone to feel bad about this. And if I make you feel bad, by all means, please tell me, because that's not the goal here. The goal here is just to give you guys information that you can use to make your portfolios better. That's it. I definitely want to make sure that you guys understand that. Okay, cool. I love this LED texture that you have going on here. That's super cool. Right off the bat. You did a really good job too on the kind of like the fabric. Let's see some more here. Okay. I know this was like a what was it? This was like a social media thing to do a while ago, so that's kind of cool. Your stitching looks really good. It's a little uneven up here, so just pay attention to stuff like this just to make sure that, like, because generally with clothing, stitching doesn't stop like that. So you want to make sure that your stitching is cohesive throughout. You want to make sure that it's completely like following along and like it looks like it was stitched by a machine, because something like this likely would be. If you're going for that like hand stitched look, you want to make sure you're changing like the kind of the offset rotation on these stitches. You want to make it look like it was, hand stitched, like you didn't have a machine doing it for you. So that's just something to pay attention to there. Otherwise, this is a really cool little project. I always like these things. I don't know, they're kind of fun to see what people do with them. I love what you did with the face and the material. I think that came across really well. So yeah, I mean, my only thing here is just going to be look at your stitching, maybe give it some sort of environment, or brighten up the background a little bit. I feel like you almost lose it because your background is a little too similar to the color on the actual hoodie. So maybe change up the background a little bit, but like otherwise, this is a neat little project. I like that you experimented with some new material types. You've got some really nice gashes and grunge and stuff on here. So super good, super solid. I'm excited to see more. All right, so that was Andrew. Thank you so much, Andrew. Let me pull this over here. I can't do that with the pen. All right, put that there. And that's Satoa in the Discord. So delete. All right. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. I'm gonna go till my normal like 9 o'clock time, so it's gonna be like a 3-hour stream. So I'm gonna try to get all of these in. So hopefully I get them all. All right. So this is Oswaldo, or is it Oswaldo? Oswaldo? I hope I'm saying that right. I really do. Okay, cool. So let's see. Let's look at this ammo box that you got going on here. All right, so pretty good. I'd like to see, I think my big issue here is that you do have all this grunge, right? Like, so you have the fact that it's used, and you have the fact that it's, you know, it's a wooden box. So I think it's really great that the paint's degrading and stuff like that. What I'd like to see, though, is some sort of, like, buildup of dirt and grime on the bottom here. When we talk about stuff like this, we want to make sure it looks like, again, it lives in that world. And so you have it living in this little kind of cylinder of world, right? So it's on a... Sorry, my nose is itchy today. So it's on this little cylinder of sand. And so you want to have that sand and dust and kind of scratches and scuffs on the bottom of this because, you know, they're not careful with these. They throw these things all over the place, and so they really trash them. So just adding that extra detail in there. Otherwise, your texture is really nice. It's cohesive. I like that you spent all the time figuring out all these different labels and stuff. So that's really nice. Let's see. Some good work on the rope. The only thing with the rope that I would say is it looks a little too 3D. We can kind of fix that by either using hair to throw in some little fibers sticking off the rope. So you can use like a really basic like XGen or just like Maya's like base hair thing. I think it's still in Maya. I haven't used hair in a long time. So, or if you really want to get like super easy and simple with it, take really tiny cylinders and just kind of stick them off all over the place. You can do like an array command around them, and that'll just kind of help sell the fact that it's that really like rough rope. Because if we look at rope, I love how like itchy my nose is for no reason. So this is the kind of rope that would be on that. So you want to have this like really like sort of like wiry, just nasty, gnarly rope. And so you'll have these little twinges that you can see sticking off here and there. Just a nitpicky thing, but like that's another way you can make this just feel a little bit more grounded in realism. We have a lot of views of this. You don't need this many. I would suggest maybe doing 2 images with like different rotations of it. So if you want to do an image with like 3 different images in it, that's a good way to do it. Having this many images can sometimes be problematic because like people don't want to scroll all the time. So let's look at your Marmoset viewer. Okay, cool. I'd like to see, it would be good to see a render too of like this open instead of just the Marmoset viewer. But let's look at your rope here, because this is what I wanted to see. So you do have a texture in there. It's like a generic fabric texture almost. So that's just something I would take a look at. Otherwise, this build is really nice. I like how well you captured the fact that it's made out of like scrap wood. Like these are never made out of like good wood. They're just like cheap pine. These nails, are these textures? Okay, so these are just textures with height map, so that's cool. All right. I like that you offset them because, you know, again, these are assembled so quickly. Like, this is this is what's really important when you're texturing, guys, is like understanding that when you're looking at this stuff, you need to establish how it's constructed. My nose is so itchy, and I'm sorry, guys, that I keep like rubbing my face, but you need to look at how things are constructed. So if it's an airplane, you're gonna have really clean lines, really clean alignments, everything like that. When it's something like this, you're not gonna have that because they're cheaply assembled and they're just thrown together. I did not get notified. Mr. Blazingman, I am so sorry. I don't know why. It should have gone out on Discord and YouTube. Hey man, I just saw your review on my Instagram. The video is our final show off. Working on an art station. You needed to scroll down to see the assets without filters. Oh, you did have some? Okay, cool. I'll probably take a look at that after then. But I'm glad you were able to see it. If you have questions, feel free to ask as well. Sometimes it's kind of hard with Instagram just because there's no like real structure to it. So that's why I tend to recommend that people have an ArtStation or a Frame 240 or whatever platform you want to post on. Okay, so this knife, let's see. This looks like we went with kind of like a low poly asset. Your texturing on the blade is looking really nice. Your texturing in general looks really good. The thing that I don't... Let's see. Understock challenge, creating a survival knife with the goal of making it as realistic as possible. Use Maya Exposed Substance Painter. Okay, so it looks like this wasn't supposed to be like a game asset. So here's what I'm going to recommend here, especially since you use Substance Painter. In Substance Painter, when you export your maps, you're going to have a height map, which in Maya translates to a what do you call it? Why am I spacing on the term? I can't think of the term. I'll pull it up in a minute. But anyway, you have this height map. And so you can tell in this project, this height map's not being used. And that's a bummer because like you've got this really beautiful knurling on the handle that you could use Maya to subdivide and then use Arnold to do the subdivision at render. And then with that, you can then use your height map. You can adjust the amount of height that you're looking to get out of it, and it can pull that geometry out. So it can make this thing stand out a lot more than it actually does, just because you're using like the base normal map. And I think that might also come down to the fact that a lot of people don't understand how the height maps work in Maya. No, it's not displacement maps. Displacement maps they're named height maps in Substance, displacement maps in Maya, but they both function the same way. So that's something I would recommend with something like this, is like you've got that texture, you can take advantage of that, you can add that extra detail. The other thing is just the blade. When you're looking at these like Bowie style knives, if we look at the way they're kind of set up, usually they have what's called, it's a terrible name, but it's called a blood groove. And so these blood grooves on at least some of these, it really depends on the knife and it depends on what your reference was, but this is a nice detail to include just because it gives you some room to add some advanced texturing, and it kind of breaks up the shape of the knife along with like the general curves of the sharpening of the knife. You kind of did get that, so I'm not gonna nitpick that because you did work on that. I would focus on the topology and allowing it to kind of flow into the blade better, because right now it looks like somebody just took a chip off the knife. And then the only other thing here is just to look at your teeth. Your teeth are very like saw blade like, and with knives like this, they're always kind of generally kind of tooled. They're not just like straight sharp jaggeds. So just be careful with some of that stuff. But otherwise, like, your knife came along really well. I would just, again, play with those extra features that you have that are built into Maya that'll really help sell this. Your lighting came together really well in this scene. Everything looks fine. Just, you can take it a little bit more. You can just a little bit higher. Thanks for the review on the air ducts. We'll work on it. And the edge where it's nice. Yeah, like I said, just reverse a little bit of it. Like, you don't have to take it all off, but think about where those ducts are going to be used and then kind of figure that out. MGX Matt, if you don't mind. So the only issue is I can't see who's here. So I can kind of nitpick a little bit, but it's kind of hard to see who's actually here. But if you want me to get to yours next, I can get to yours next, MGX. I said at the beginning of the stream, if you guys need me to, I can kind of pull them. I'm just going off of the order that I have because we had a lot of submissions, so we'll just kind of keep going here. I'm trying to pick like 3 pieces per. And so far we're doing okay on time, so this is definitely your most solid piece, Oswaldo. Same kind of thing here, just pay attention to your texturing a little bit. Your paper, this paper would have like tear marks. So this is just extra stuff that you can take into consideration to kind of really up-res your textures. This definitely shows an increase in knowledge with your texturing, and you did a really solid job with all of this. So like this is just me nitpicking at this point, but just pay attention to the way the paper tears, stuff like that. Everything else here is like super clean, super solid. Your modeling looks really nice. Your textile density is coming through really well. Yeah, no, I mean, you did really good there. Just paying attention a little bit more to some of the grunge, some of the rust on this. Let me see if you actually included some of that edge stuff. Oh, no, you did. So, yeah. Sometimes with assets like this, I like to go in and just really kind of like do some manual grunge up. So don't rely too heavily on like edgeware materials and edgeware masks. Go in there and add a little bit of that stuff yourself as well, just because it's going to kind of sell that a little bit more and just add a little bit more realism to it. M. Sharif, let me go ahead and get yours now because we're done with this one. Because I know you're kind of late, so if some of you guys are like later, just let me know. Because again, we had so many of these. And, you know, to the point, like, these will be in the VOD, so if you guys have questions later on, you can answer or you can ask them in the comments, and I'll answer them. But let's go ahead and do M. Sharif real quick. I was actually pretty close to you anyway, so we'll go ahead and do yours. I know your portfolio doesn't have any nudity in it, so we're good there. Okay, so we're going to look at your top pieces right now, just because that's what I want to focus on. I know you're doing a lot of work with this police box. Honestly, this one's really nice. I like what you did there. Your wood material stands out a little bit too much, but otherwise, like, this is a really nice little build. Just one image. So when it comes to, this is the first thing I noticed with your portfolio. When it comes to your portfolio, spend some time to clean this up and keep your assets organized into single project folders. So like when you're looking at a portfolio, right? You want to see like, okay, I want to look at this BD1. So I'll click on the BD1. You'll have the breakdown of that BD1. The problem that I see right off the bat with your portfolio is you have, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but this is is it a Dalek or Dialect? I'm not a Doctor Who person, so I don't really know. Try to keep these projects reduced to like their own folder. Think of them as folders, right? Like you're just trying to keep them organized in their folder and then show your process through there. Because like when you click on these and there's only one image, it doesn't really show like the process, the workflow, like what you did for the projects themselves. Like the model looks really solid, but I want to see like what you did to get to this point. Is it Dalek? Dalek? I have no idea. I've never watched Doctor Who. It was never one of the shows when I grew up. But you know, your models. Oh, here we go. All right, so you did break this one down. Okay. Cool. Nice. There we go. All right, so this is good. I'm glad that you broke it down this way. All right, so looking at this, topology up here is really nice. Over here, this is way too dense. Way too dense. You can definitely reduce that. When we're talking about, like, is this a subdivided model? Has it been subdivided? It's a little hard to tell. But to me, it looks like you maybe subdivided these pieces and then left the rest low poly. So if you're going to subdivide your model, make sure you subdivide the whole thing. That way we can see the whole thing in view. That's going to be my biggest critique here when it comes to your wireframes. These sorts of setups are fine. There's nothing really wrong with this. Yeah, I don't really see any like major issues that stand out here. It's just the densities that you have going on here. They tend to, it makes your model look like you paid a lot of attention to one part and then just kind of threw together other parts. So we just want to be a little bit more careful with like how we're handling our mesh density in certain areas. Because otherwise, like, the renders are really nice. They're really clean. You've got some really nice, like, stuff going on here, like, texturally. I would like to see more, like, dirt and grunge, because let's see. Did I spell that right? Okay. What do these actually look like in the show? Because, again, I've never seen the show. What are you... What? What is this? That's a small picture. These are all small pictures. Okay, yeah. So there is some, like, grunge and damage. So that's the kind of stuff that I'd like to see you doing. Adding some dirt and debris and just things that make it feel a little bit more like, you know, used. Because, like, again, these are going through an environment. I'm sure they're bumping into things in battles, like, whatever. You want to show that damage to really kind of, like, bring these more to, like, a realistic standpoint. But otherwise, like, the model looks fine. Like, you've got some good geometry going on. Just those density issues I would take a look at. And then you said something about, let's see, this TARDIS model is an old model, which I did a few years ago. Yeah, and I know you're doing the new one, so, like, you know, you've got the setup right, like, everything's working really well. I like how you have your light kind of coming through here, so your lighting is looking really solid there. Again, like, my biggest critique here is going to be just not having these single images in your library. I don't know what this is. GPU test run by following the Nebula course on Carick. Oh. That's cool. That's fun. I like this. This is really cool. I like that you showed your quality settings and the things that you were working on and testing, so that's really neat. Nice. Okay. Sometimes it'd be cool to show, like, what this looks like in viewport, how this is, like, interacting with things, but you were testing a GPU, so, like, you probably weren't pushing it that far. Otherwise, yeah, I think the biggest thing I see here is that you do need a little bit of work on your textures, just like making things feel a little bit more lived in, unless you're going for that really brand new looking thing. Hey, Kelsey. Unless you're looking for, like, really brand new, like, clean assets, just be careful with, like, how clean you allow your textures to be. These are really nice. How come I never saw these from you? These are really cool. Yeah, that's the only bummer, is that you only have one image here just showcasing that. But, like, otherwise, these transformers are really cool. I like that you did this. Can you scroll, please? Thank you. Megatron poster time lapse. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but... So did you model these yourself, M. Sharif? Or were these just, like, test models that you had? Mr. Halton, hello, how are you? Oh, I need to explain those Transformer ones. I can't take credit for those models. I did source film maker. Okay, cool. Not familiar with that, so I'm not going to review those. That's fine. I was just like, whoa, you're holding out on me. But no, I mean, like, you know, your models are good. I would like to see you try some new stuff that isn't necessarily, like, Doctor Who related. I think it'd be really cool for you to kind of break out of that comfort zone and try some things outside of what you're comfortable with. I know you're currently working on, like, your TARDIS and you're focusing on that project. Totally cool. Totally understandable. But I think for your next project, like, it would be cool to see you kind of break out and do something outside of what you normally do. So otherwise, you know, just kind of cleaning up and condensing your portfolio, I think, would be your best help there. And then looking at your textures and trying to kind of play more with the idea of making things feel a little bit more grounded in reality. But I hope that helps. You're in the Discord. I know you are. We talk a lot. So if you have further questions, of course, hit me up. No problems there. But I like what you're doing. Even though this is an older model, I think you did a really good job with this entire setup. The only thing that I think that throws me off, as you can tell, it's just hovering here. Otherwise, like, this is really nice. Your camera has some really nice depth of field blur to it. Everything looks really clean. So I'm excited to see what else you do with it. I know, like, that's probably pretty low poly compared to, like, what it actually looks like. But old asset, so we're not going to critique that too hard. But yeah, no, I hope that helps a little bit. That's a good question. Are you allowed to import other people's models for a portfolio if you want to showcase animation or level design? So, yes and no. And MGX, yes, I'll do yours next. Let me show you an example of what you would kind of want to do. So I'm going to use my friend Jared. So he did collaborations where he did the model. I believe he did the model on this one, and then somebody else did the texturing. So if you're doing something like that, where you're kind of bouncing ideas off another artist, that's totally fine. I wouldn't necessarily like use your own portfolio to share other people's assets because you're trying to showcase what you did and what you modeled or what you created. And so the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, I didn't make this model, but I did do the textures, and not have it be the big part of it or some way linking it to like a shared project. So you just want to be careful with that because you want to make sure that you're doing that stuff with purpose and not so much just trying to showcase something. It's a little bit different when you're talking about like animation because most of us don't have fully rigged animated characters or animatable characters. So with animation, most people are still using those, like the default like generic setup models that you can buy off of like TurboSquid and stuff like that. That stuff's fine. But if you're a modeler and you're showing somebody else's models off, you probably don't want to do that. No problem, I'm sure. I'm glad it helped. All right, let me get rid of. I'm gonna delete yours because we just did yours. All right, let's see who else we got here. So you said, let's see, MGX. You said yours is. Where are we? There you are. I haven't seen yours yet, so I gotta open it in another window, make sure there's no nudity. Nah, we're good. Okay. Okay. Cool. So this is MGX. We're gonna take a look here. So you got this little sci-fi drone. Okay. So this definitely looks like one of your like first models. So that's cool. Pretty nice. Low resolution textures. So just be a little careful with stuff like that in your portfolio. But the one thing that kind of stands out to me is like it's very blocky. It doesn't have like the silhouette is just going to be really kind of like blocky and blocked out. And so like when it comes to stuff like this, try to play a little bit with like your silhouette because like I know we talk about silhouette being something really important with characters, but it's also really important with stuff like this. Hey Matt, is the stream going to be up? Stream is live right now and it'll be uploaded later. Yes. I'm doing a racing game right now for uni, brief, but as modeling student, they do allow you to grab assets from Sketchfab just for the model. I assume you can't. That's kind of like, I don't know. If you're doing it, if you're doing the game, right? If you're building a game, that's totally fine. If you're doing a technical portion, that's totally understandable. So like if you're doing like you're saying like, okay, so I programmed this game or I animated this scene, just credit who the models came from. You'll be fine there. No issues there. But just don't try to sell other people's work as like your own work. So you just got to be careful with that kind of realm. But okay, so back to this. So silhouette. So looking at silhouette on stuff like this, we want to pay attention to it because like if you take this, and one of the easiest ways to like check this stuff is to just take a render, throw it into like Photoshop or whatever, and then just completely turn it into like an alpha map almost, and pay attention to how your silhouette's sitting. Drone model I did is a concept art with my own way of idea. Okay, no, that's fine. Just looking at stuff like this, like, kind of look at the way mechanical design works. Otherwise, like, I can see what you were trying to do here, and it worked. It worked really well. It's just you want to be careful with stuff like this because the last thing you want is your models to constantly look really blocky like this. But otherwise, this is pretty nice. I would blur this background. It's not generally super great idea to leave the HDRIs, at least not blurred, because they end up degrading the scene a little bit. Texturing wise, your texturing is looking pretty good. This looks like it would be kind of like brand new out of the box almost, so like you wouldn't really want to have too much edge wear. The only thing that I notice is you do have a little bit of like, it's almost like it's just low resolution. I don't know if that's UV or whatever. It's kind of hard to tell because like this stuff is all super sharp. And so just stuff to like pay attention to. I know this is like an old asset, so we're not going to critique that one too hard. Let's go back. Oh, come on. There we go. Let's go to something more recent. Let's look at this one. I remember you shared this one. So this flashlight, I really like the way you did this. This turned out really well. And it shows that you're learning how to like change your texturing and kind of work more with like realistic based textures. So this is a really good example. Your knurling stands out really well. I can't tell if you did like a height map for it and then let the geo extrude or if it's just the bump map, but either way, you didn't get too close to where it looks like it degraded. So like overall, this looks like a really solid, clean asset. The only thing that I think that you should show here, again, would be like breaking down your scene, breaking down your wireframes, your UV, like what work did you put into this to kind of show that you know the process and you understand the process. Because a lot of the times we don't know if, you know, you used a material for this or if you took a cylinder and duplicated it across the model. Like that would be a horrible way to do it, but we don't know because we can't see the process breakdown. So that would be my biggest thing here, is to show your process workflow a little bit. Because overall, that's a really solid, clean model. I really like what you did there. And then this tank. So the tank is pretty awesome. Everyone's doing tanks right now. I love it. Let's see. What else do we got here? Okay, so your wireframe's looking really good. Nothing's too dense. Nothing's too, like, crazy. Is that the same tank? Yeah, it is. Okay, different view. Yeah, overall, I really like the shaping of it. Everything's kind of working there really well. It looks like, so is this still a work in progress? I think. Yeah, that torch, the light is super awesome. You did a really good job with that one, MGX. Those are actually normal and height texture. Okay, cool, yeah. So that would be something to break down, show a little bit, like just show like, hey, this is what I did to get this effect. It helps show recruiters that's what they're like, that's what you know what to do, like you know how to work through that process. So that's really important to show. Yeah, your tank is looking really solid. Are you planning on texturing this? I like that you modeled all of this detail in. A lot of people will skip that and they'll leave this like the bolts and stuff to like texturing. And that's always just kind of like a, I don't know, it's kind of like a lame thing to see sometimes, unless it's like a low poly asset. Because like if you're doing high poly like this, screw it, model it. Yeah, so it's optimizing it more if possible to UV it. Okay, cool. So you're still working on this. Overall, geometry-wise, this thing's super solid. I'm stoked to see what you do with this one. I think it looks really cool. The barrel feels a little plain. Maybe, I don't know, maybe like spice up the barrel just a little bit. But otherwise, like, I don't really have many critiques for that because it's already looking really good. I will tell you with these smoke canisters, though, be careful with these because generally if you look at them, they're kind of offset. So, like, they're either pointing this direction or they're crossed. That way, when the canisters fire off, they fire off in different directions. So modeling-wise, that would be a big critique of mine, just to make sure that you're kind of showcasing, like, that's how that works. It looks like you kind of angled a little bit here. I would just kind of add a little bit more differential to that, just to show, like, they change up a little bit. It's a T-90 Russian tank body with fusion and Russian anti-air drone sir. Okay, cool, gotcha. Yeah, so otherwise, no, this is really cool. Like, I love what you're doing with this one. I'm excited to see what you do with this one, so keep up the good work on that one. Yeah, no, I mean, you're, again, like, this is probably your most solid piece in your portfolio right now, because you did so good at, like, making sure your geometry was clean and your texturing was clean, so really killer job on that one. No, I'm stoked to see what else you do. Let's see, we're going to close that. We don't need the Dalek anymore. We don't need the Bowie knife. We don't need that anymore. Close that. Alright, so we did MGX. And again, guys, if you guys have further questions after this, I know it's kind of hard to get all this in one stream. Like, hit me up on Discord. Feel free to ask questions. I have no problems. Is there anyone else in chat who wants me to look at their portfolio now that I haven't gotten to yet? Because I'd like to make sure I get everybody who's in chat. Do you guys ever think about rigging your tanks or trying animation as well? So I will be doing that with my tank. My tank will be heavily used throughout this year, so it's going to be animated, rendered, all that stuff. Bailey. All right, cool. Is it under Bailey or is it under another name in Discord? Thank you so much. I was just not uploading the laser wireframe because my current files. Oh, that's okay. No, that's totally understandable. I would just do it eventually if you can. I wish I had a portfolio to show. Still don't have one set up as my second year. That's okay. You can get it eventually. I'm gonna do more of these guys. So like, don't be too upset if like you don't have anything for one, because we're gonna try to do at least one of these a month, depending on like what the demand is for them. So I'm gonna do some research and try to figure out how people feel about this and if they really enjoyed this, and or if they think I'm terrible and I have no idea what I'm doing. We will figure all that out and we will do more for whatever we need to do. It's under Bailey. Okay. Will there be another portfolio review? Yes. I'll try to do them every month. It's under Bailey. Brody. Why am I not seeing yours? Oh, there you are. I found you. Ah, yes. Okay, cool. Sweet. So let's focus on these four. Just because I can see you know what you're doing texturing-wise, so that's good. This TIE Fighter. I'm intrigued. I've always wanted to do a TIE Fighter, but I never remembered to do it. Super solid. You got the geometry of the wings set up really well. I like that all of your geometry is like reflecting the light the way it should be. Material wise, like everything kind of works really well there. Your detail is great. You put a lot of work into making sure these wings have the detail that they have, and so I can really appreciate that you put that much work in here. Did you model this? Is this texture or did you model this? This is my last thing I made before graduating. Okay, sweet. I think every 3 to 6 months would be good that way. Yeah, 3 to 6 months is probably a better idea. That's why I'll kind of like poke around and figure out what people want. So you did model this? Jeez. I would totally leave that up to a texture, so I give you props for doing that. Yeah, this is really nice. You did really good on this project. You captured the silhouette perfectly. You captured all the detail really well. Looks like you didn't do the cockpit, which is totally fine. Yeah, no, I mean, like, this model is really, really nice. I think when it comes to stuff like this, I like that you showed your reference. But when it comes to stuff like this, I think the biggest thing... Did you UV this, or is this just, like, materials that you slapped on it? I also don't understand the TIE Fighter. I do look weird in space shuttle and make it attractive and is unique. Yeah, TIE Fighter's a very weird-looking ship, but I love it. So with projects like this, like if you did UV it, I'd love to see what you did for your UVs. I think that's, especially with these like high density models like this, like it's always really good to show your UVs. It's UV'd, but not very well done. Had to finish before the end of the day that day. I got you. Yeah, that's fine. And if you were on a time constraint, that's different. Yeah. Otherwise, with this one, just wireframe and UV would be really, really cool to see. Otherwise, like you can tell, like the model's built, like you did a really good job on it. It's super clean. So, killer job on that one. Let's see. Quadrotype 66. Cyberpunk. Okay. Okay. Nice, nice. I like that you have your referencing stuff here. This is a really nice breakdown of your entire project. So, killer job there. Your materials are all reacting the way you would expect them to, so that's really nice. Modeling looks solid. Okay, cool. You broke it down. Nice. Very nice. Can I pause this? I can. Let's go back. Nope, go back. Where was that? There we go. Yeah, your wireframe's clean. Very, very clean. This is what I was talking about with like the other vehicle. Like you can see how you don't have that distortion. You have very clean lines. Like with vehicles, it's very important, guys, to have clean lines because the littlest bit of distortion will screw you up. So you did a really good job on your geometry here. That all looks really good. Let's see. The only thing that's throwing me off is this. That throws me off a little bit. I feel like you probably could have modeled that in, but that's a nitpick. Probably wouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things. My big thing here is like the textures just look a little too clean. You have some really nice roughness going on, but I think being that it's from Cyberpunk and being that it's from that world that's kind of like dirty and like damaged and old and lived in, I feel like you could probably take your textures up just a tad bit more. You did a lot with the engine here, so you've got your like your edge wear and your dirt buildup and grime. I feel like you could just do it a little bit more, like just a little bit more to kind of bring it to the surface. But otherwise, like this is a really nice project. Yeah, because like if you look at your reference here, you can see how like grungy and dirty the tires are. So just some little things. They are in-game also. Did a sweep effect on that one. Oh, okay, gotcha. Damn, I'm late. Yeah, it's all right. I don't think I've done yours yet, Alfonso. Don't worry. I respect people who make cars such an organic but smooth shapes. Yeah, cars are miserable. That's why I haven't done one in a while. I hate them. All right, so let's look at your DeLorean real quick here. Nice, nice. I like that you modeled some of the interior details, so that's cool. I think the same thing here. It'd just be nice to see some variation in texture. Otherwise, like you're already able to show that you can model this stuff really well. Your presentation is really solid. I can really appreciate that you've got your animated rotations, you've got your wireframe swapping, all this stuff. Really nice. Your renders are turning out pretty nice. Just that texture variation, I think, would really send your models to the next level. But otherwise, like portfolio-wise, like you've got some really solid projects so far. Your modeling is really good. Just again, looking for ways to take it up to the next notch. You know, what are you modeling these in? Go back. Scroll up. Oh, it doesn't say because it's one of those. What do you do? You're working all the way. Maya, you do Maya? Okay, cool. DeLorean, I need to re-render. Gotcha. Yeah, there's some grain in there. When you render it again, just clean up that grain a little bit. People that model cars, how do you generally model tire treads? So tire treads are one of those things where it's kind of like accepted that they're just going to be really high poly unless you're doing a texture. So you just generally, what I do, I don't know if it's what everyone else does, is I'll model a section of the tire. I will form that to a cylinder and then I'll ring array it. That way you have a perfect array of it, and then you can just extrude the rest of the geometry. This one is going to be in a movie coming out this year. Oh, sweet. Well, congrats on that. That's awesome. Nice. You've got this really nice roughness that you're playing with. I just, again, want to see a little... I would want to see a little bit more, like, grunge build-up. Because, like, otherwise, like, everything else, you're super solid on. You're using UDIMs for this, so that's cool. Your tile layouts are really clean. I don't know what that is. What is that? What part is that? I'm not sure what part that is, but it's nice to see that you are using UDIMs, you understand them, you're working with them, so that's cool. Primitive War. People model high poly and bake low poly. This one's going to be in a movie. People model high poly. Okay, I got you. Yeah, just same kind of critique. And then the other thing is that with this one, you just don't have a lot of like variation in material. So like everything is just green with this like little plop of red and some gray. So, you know, with something like this, I would take these gas cans, maybe either rough them up a bit or change the coloring on them a little bit. Because in general, like, when you have stuff hanging off of these tanks, like, it's never going to be, like, the exact same color of the paint. So whether it's a different shade of green or something like that, just different ideas that you can play with to kind of take your textures up a notch. It's super cool that you're going to have this in a movie. That's awesome. Congrats on that. Again, your presentation is really, really well done. Like, I'm super impressed with the way you're presenting these things. A lot of people don't know to do stuff like this, so... Good on you for being able to do that. Big and no so far. Oh, I got you. You were responding to him. Yeah, no, I mean, otherwise, like, super solid model. Just looking for ways to take your textures to the next level. It's one of the things that, like, let me pull up my ArtStation real quick. We'll look at my ship. So, one of the things that is really important to kind of sell a model and sell like a project is to have those variations in colors. You don't want to get too extreme, right? So like we don't want to have like hot pink on a tank, but have those little things that draw your eyes to different locations on the ship. So I want your eyes drawn to the center of this ship, like the cockpit area. So the original design has these really bright green windows and these different shapes that are kind of flowing into the back, but then everything's kind of split and separated by these different orange shades and these kind of like tan shades. And so really it's just playing with the different material types and what textures you can use to kind of get away with taking your model and just kind of separating things a bit. Because the last thing you want is everything to look super similar, because then it just all kind of gets blurred and lost. But otherwise, your portfolio is coming together really well. You clearly know what you're doing modeling-wise. I think texturing is going to be your big thing. I don't really have any critiques like lighting-wise, just because like you are doing these like stage lighting things, so you're not really doing like environmental lighting at all. But you know what you're doing highlighting-wise, and you know what you're doing modeling-wise, and I think that's super awesome. So, killer job. This sounds stupid, but does my portfolio have to be 10/10 the best work I can produce? Can it have my lesser quality uni work? So, the general rule is you want to put the best of the best in there. I follow that to an extent, but I still have some of my old work in here, and basically I remove a piece as I add a piece. So, like, this skull is the next piece that goes bye-bye when my tank releases. So, I'm basically kind of building a new portfolio and removing my old stuff because I don't want my old stuff there because it's no longer a reflection of my quality of work. So that's the big thing is like this is your resume, right? You're selling yourself to a company, and so the last thing you want to do is show subpar work in your portfolio. It's okay to show like a progression over the years if you want to. Just make sure that you're kind of indicating that's what's going on, because you don't want to just show like a bunch of stuff mixed in with a bunch of like okay stuff and a bunch of great stuff. So like make sure there's some sort of progression to it. Like you can tell with mine, like there is a progression of like quality as you go up, and that's what is really important to kind of follow along with. Yes, quality over quantity, exactly. Like I know people who have been hired off of one piece in their portfolio. So it really does matter that you put quality into your work over quantity. It's super, super important. I asked this to my uni teachers, and they said to get rid of old work that doesn't look good compared to new stuff. Yeah, that's the rule that I generally follow. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the skull goes next. I haven't decided what I'm going to remove next, but like for instance, like this is an old piece of mine. Terrible, awful. I did this in 2014. So like that honestly needs to be removed. I just kind of keep it kind of filled. But you know, it's good to kind of clean house and make sure that you're modifying your portfolio and keeping it updated. Okay. Thanks, guys. Still trying to learn the quality though. It takes time. It takes time. Do we have anyone else in chat who needs or who wants me to look at their portfolio now before I start going back to just kind of going off the list? Just to check in with you guys. And I'll take this like breather moment to say again, thank you guys so much for submitting all these portfolios. This was way bigger of a response than I thought I was going to get. So super excited, and I'm glad that I get to do this for you guys. So thank you for being here. I am the list. Are you on the list, Mr. Blazing Man? Because I'll do yours next. It's just something that happens when you make stuff. It's a learning part. No, absolutely. Like, I told my wife the other day, I was like, I rendered my tank, and I was like, holy shit, I made that. Like, you will have those moments when you're working on stuff that eventually, like, you're going to be like, oh my god. It just happens as you progress and as you grow. And so, like, eventually, like, every one of your new projects that you do is going to hopefully be one of those experiences for you where, like, holy crap, I made that. Like, you know, and it just depends on, like, what you're challenging yourself with. And that's the biggest thing that I can always say with any portfolio piece is pick something to challenge yourself with it. Pick something you can do, but pick something that is within range to challenge yourself with. So, like, with the tank, for instance, for myself, I'm challenging myself with some Bifrost stuff because I haven't really done Bifrost. I did this. That's my Bifrost experience. So, like, I'm looking to expand on that and grow on that while still doing something that's going to look great in my portfolio, but gives me something to challenge myself. So that's just kind of like, that's the process. Like, pick something that you're going to build for your portfolio that's going to represent your quality, but also challenge yourself. No, my portfolio is extremely outdated. Okay, I got you. He's him. Have you done ZBrush hard surface? That's something I want to learn. I have not. I can tell you Tamuzu in the community has been doing it a lot, and he's making me want to try it, but I'm also afraid to. How long does a project usually take? It depends. So this lightsaber took 10 hours. The ship took 130 hours. The xenomorph took 90 hours. So it's really a mix. And it usually comes down to like how much time I'm willing to spend on a project. And so my tank is at 109 hours right now. So it really depends. Like there is no like clear-cut answer on like how long a project should take you. It's really just going to be like how long do you have to spend to get it to the point that you want it to be? And what are you shooting for? Are you doing hyper realistic? Are you doing like super dense, like clean modeling and you're trying to follow every rule possible? Or are you doing something down and dirty that you want to look really cool that doesn't require a lot of stuff? The Cryptic took 5,000 hours. I wish. ZBrush hard surface does fascinate me. I believe topology and Z-model tools are so much better in Maya. They can be and they can't be. You can usually pick out Z-remesher models really easily because the topology does weird things. You'll see like straight lines and then suddenly they'll just curve off and go somewhere weird. And so you can generally kind of pick them up and pick them out. That's why most people who do like hard surface stuff inside of ZBrush will pull it into Maya or Blender or whatever and retopologize it to get rid of the bad topology. Like, yeah, it looks fine as a model, but like when you look at it under like wireframe, they don't generally hold up as well. But on the other side of that, there's like growing information that topology doesn't matter as much as we thought it did. So it's just kind of hit or miss. All right, since nobody spoke up, we're going to just start back up at the top of the list. We're going to go Lemon Sama. Thank God there was no nudity in that because I just opened it here. I made a ray gun in ZBrush, had a lot more fun making it rather than I would Maya. There's some issues I couldn't fix. It was more fun. Yeah, and that's the thing about ZBrush is it's more art-based. It's really designed for like art. Like it is designed for the artistic mindset, and I think that's what's really cool about it, and that's why modeling in it is so different and fun. So I love hard surface modeling in Maya, so it's going to be really hard to sell me on moving over to ZBrush, but I'll probably try it someday. For me, the hard part is saying to myself that it's good enough, but I always have that feeling that something's missing. You will always have that. It never goes away. That's just something that we learn to work with and grow with, unfortunately. All right, so we have Arif. I'm going to say this horribly wrong, but I think it's Hary. This is their portfolio. Let's take a look at this one. This one piqued my interest immediately. This one looks really nice. This is some sort of strange instrument. What is this? A saranada is a stringed folk music. Huh. Oh, a sarinda. Sarinda. Eastern India and Pakistan. Okay, cool. I have never seen one of these before in my life, so that's kind of neat. So, for something like this, right off the bat, without, like, looking at it in depth, it sells it really well. When we look at it in depth, you can see some of the stuff kind of fall apart. But otherwise, I want to like give you the, the quality there. Like you did really well with selling this. So the big thing that I'm noticing here, I'm guessing this is some sort of like drum pad, almost like a cowhide. Let me see. Let me look this up. How do you spell this? I want to see what one of these actually looks like. Do you have a reference? Aha, you do. JK, I'm not going to look it up. Okay, so... yeah, I think it's like some sort of cowhide stretched across it or something. I'm not really entirely sure. But when you're doing stuff like this, texture-wise, this is where it's going to be really important to have at least a bump map. It would be better to have a height map just so you can extrude that additional detail. But you just want to separate this just a tad bit, because right now it looks like it's just kind of drawn into the wood grain. And so we want to avoid that. Otherwise, texturing-wise, this looks really clean. I don't notice anything else that super stands out to me. Like, these knobs look very well done. Like, they look like they were, like, whittled wood and they were, like, stained and carved really well. So, yeah, material-wise, like, this is looking really nice. You can get... this is what's nice, right? Like, the way you did this, you can get really close to it. I think it falls apart a little bit here. You can tell the texture starts to get a little blurry. But otherwise, you can get really close to this and really show off your details. That, I would fix something like that. That string has to go somewhere. It doesn't just stop there. So you'd want to make sure that you terminate that somehow. Like you did here. See how you like tied these off? These are beautiful. This is really beautiful work. So you do have a bit of a bump map. It's just not, it's not doing the desired result, I don't think. This is where a height map would come in handy, because the problem is that your bump map, you can only pull so far. And so the more you pull your bump map, the more the overall bump kind of gets extruded. And this is kind of like the limitation with them. So like you get that kind of crisping on the edge that you're looking for, but then you also get this really grainy noisiness. And so up close, it doesn't hold up as well. So I think a height map would do a lot better here for you. Otherwise, again, super clean. This looks really well. I like how you have this like pattern where it's like being stretched inwards. So your texturing on this is really nice. Be careful with the edges like this. This is where it gets a little bit hard to to zoom in with bump maps, because you lose that you kind of lose that depth, because the model is only so dense, and so that bump map can only do so much before it starts looking like it's just a really sharp curve that has a bumpy texture applied to it. So you have to be careful around these corners unless you're doing something with a height map. Okay, so your wireframe's really good. These are, holy, those are very dense. So that would be a big critique there, is to make these not so dense, because they're black. They should not be black like that. Maybe, I don't know, do you have a low poly version of this in here somewhere? Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really look like you do. I can't really tell where those UVs are either. Density-wise, it looks like it's subdivided. I'm pretty sure that's what you did. You have a little bit of a geometry issue there that I would look at cleaning up, but otherwise, like, you know, nitpicky stuff on a finished project. This is the thing we want to avoid, though. That is way too freaking dense. Even if you were working with something that was subdivided, you should still be able to see into this and see what that geometry looks like. And you just can't with this. So that's an important thing to look at there. Oh, you did Kinetic Rush. Okay. Let's look at this telephone booth real quick. Let's see. This is a really nice asset. This looks really good. I like that you modeled the interior as well. Everything's clean. This is what I was kind of talking about with the graffiti on that earlier project. Like, make sure your graffiti is, like, just singled. You don't want to have it repeating all over the place. This is a really nice kind of, like, implementation of that. You've got your dirt and grunge and your rust around the base where, you know, rainwater would be building up and just kind of degrading this thing over time. And you broke down, like, the individual pieces on the inside. This is really nice. Your geometry looks really nice. Like, super nice project right here. Great job on this one. 2 years of learning this stuff and never heard of a bump map. I know normal maps. So normal maps are the same thing. I'm old school. So I've been doing this since like 2008. And back when I was doing this, they were called bump maps, and I just never not called them bump maps. But normal map and bump map, same terminology, just different naming. What'd you do for Kinetic Rush? I'm curious. I remember seeing this one, actually. Yeah, that's really nice. Really, really well done. I've wanted to take part in one of these at some point, and I might someday. But this is really cool. Your texturing looks really clean. Um, the only thing I feel like doesn't sell it necessarily, and I'm sure you got critiques off of Kinetic Rush for this, but your background objects here, they don't necessarily feel like stone. It's almost like they probably look really good when they're small, but when you scale something up to that size, you lose a lot of fidelity if the textures aren't there yet. And so with something like this, you scaled something up that wasn't necessarily meant to be scaled up, and so I feel like you lost some fidelity there. But otherwise, this is a super cool project. Your character looks really solid. You have all this really nice movement. It's nice to see something with like a real like full-on animation in it too, because like you have all this like subtle movement going on, which is cool. I know some of this is provided through the Kinetic Rush movement, but you have that like subtle movement with the stick up there or the little light thing. So really good job. I like that. Let's look at this spaceship that you got here. Aurora ST1. That's cool. I like the design of this. It reminds me almost of like it's like a really sharp bamboo fighter. Naboo fighter. Interesting. Oh, it's a bummer that you can't really see that texture coming through, because it's really cool that you did that. Okay. I love this render because it just really like gives us a good view of like everything you did here. This looks really nice. It's a really kind of cool design. I do feel like you kind of lost a little bit of opportunity to do some special shapes with your bump map or your normal map, because you have this repeating texture all the way down here. I feel like you could have done something a little bit differently. Also, the difference in shape. This is something you want to kind of try to pay attention to, because when you're doing decals like this, you want them to be cohesive as they scale down. Not so much big, 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 medium, big, small, big, medium. You don't want them to break up like that. That's just something to like kind of nitpick and be careful of. Otherwise, I like what you did here. I like all your little glowing materials. Everything looks really clean. You've got some really nice presentation going on here, so I like that you did your UV, your wireframe. Modeling-wise, it looks pretty solid. I can't tell what's modeled and what's textured. I'm guessing, I don't know if this is modeled or textured. It would be nice to be able to see what you modeled in. Let's see. And it's kind of hard to tell with your wireframe. I can tell you didn't model those little arrows in, so those are obviously a texture. But with wireframes, when you're showing these off like this, it's really important to make sure that you pull the wireframe out a bit more, so you darken that wireframe a tad bit. We want to make sure that we're showcasing the actual wireframe itself and not so much keeping it hidden like this, because it's really hard to tell what you have going on there, unfortunately. Your UV looks really clean. That's all good. That's all fine. Again, just looking at just some of these repeating materials, just trying to kind of refine them a little bit and not have them changing size and shape like this as much. Otherwise, this is a really cool design. It's almost like I don't even know, it's like a bird slash like ray. It's really cool. It's unique. The other thing I would be careful with, again, is these backgrounds like this. The reason I say not to use these is because they generally pixelate. So like you're using your HDRI map as a background, and so they pixelate really badly. This one, it kind of works because you've got that nice blur going on with the ship, so you can tell it's in motion. So it almost, the lower resolution of the image in the background looks like it's blurring with the ship. So it works there. Here, I'd just be careful with stuff like that because you kind of like lose out on like the fidelity of it. Otherwise, super solid piece, super solid portfolio. I'd love to see more from you for sure, because like I really love what you did with the little instrument, because like this is honestly my favorite piece that you have in your portfolio. It just looks really nice and it's really clean. I like the telephone booth a lot. Nice. What's up, babe? How are you? The whole boat is a texture. What do you mean the whole boat's a texture? What does that mean? I don't know what you're saying sometimes, Mr. Blazing Man. All right. So that was Lemon Sama. So thank you so much for sending your portfolio in. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and delete that message now so I can go to the next one. All right, so we got Fonzo Dash, or Norberto Heron. And again, if I'm butchering your guys' names, I'm sorry. This guy's got some awesome, you've got some awesome vehicles going on here. So let's take a look. Okay. So I'm going to pay attention to these guys. These look like your most recent work. So let's take a look at this one. This one's standing out to me. I love just the overall design of this. I like that you're playing with color. These little pops of orange and yellow really kind of help to just like ground it a little bit more. Your grunge on the railing here kind of stands out as a little bit of an issue. It's a little bit low resolution. So this is the stuff I'd be careful with, because like you have these like high fidelity like textures up here, but then you kind of like low fidelity the front bar here. And so being that this is a vehicle, we're going to see it mainly from the front, rear, and like sides and stuff. So you want to make sure that these assets that we're seeing are as high resolution as like stuff up here. You just want to make sure it's cohesive. If you use an environment as a portfolio piece, you don't have to show the wireframe of every single thing in the scene, do you? I wouldn't, just because that'll get really, really messy. What I've seen a lot of people do is they will take individual elements of their scene, and so they'll take 3 or 4 of them, put them in one frame, and then break down their wireframe and stuff like that. So if you're building environment assets like that, that's how I would kind of showcase that. I wouldn't necessarily spend all the time to like show the entire wireframe, because again, it's going to get really messy. If you're gonna like load up your UV tiles and just like throw it on the screen, like no one is gonna know what they're looking at. So pick and choose with what you're showing off. Let's see. I really love the design of this thing. This is really nice. This is really cool. I like that you also didn't go fully symmetrical with it. You have some difference here. So you have these 2 headlights. You have this little like unit thing over here. Your model's really nicely like kind of like split apart and broken up, and it feels very much like thrown together and like cyberpunky. So I like that. The different color on the door, that's a really nice touch. I love that you're just like scrapyarding this. So really cool the way you built this. I love the way that you did this. Yeah, really beautiful detail. The only thing, like I said, this like your crash bar system, it just seems like the UV got kind of like really like neglected almost. Like it was the textile density is just not there. So that's my only critique. Everything else is so clean and so solid. This looks really, really nice. Your geometry looks really nice. Let's see, did you post wireframe in here? What's your wire look like? Okay, here we go. Yeah. There we go. Nice. Yeah, super clean. Your lines are super well put together. I don't see anything wireframe wise that stands out. This is what I was talking about, guys. Like tires, they're just dense. Like you can't really get away with modeling a tire low poly. Like you have to sacrifice something somewhere. And so you're either going to handle your tire with textures, or you're going to handle your tire with geometry. There's kind of no in between there. Lemon Sama tricked us all. So the tires in this one are modeled. It baked? Oh, are modeled and not baked, yeah. Yeah, and you can tell. Like, that looks super solid. Mr. Hylton, is this your portfolio? Just so I know. So I know I'm talking to you. No, I wish. Okay. You're just saying observation-wise, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, this is really solid. Again, tires are modeled, you know, with high poly assets, it's generally what you're going to end up doing. Okay, this is like a dirt racer almost. Okay. So I see the texture was supposed to be kind of like a rumpled, like crumpled metal or paper or something like that. So that's cool. So it's like a applied thing. Your textile density looks super solid here. Everything's very clean and sharp. I'm not seeing any issues like you had with the last one. So it looks like you've figured that out for yourself, so I wouldn't be super concerned about that. A little bit of like blurring here, but stuff like that is just nitpicky things. Stuff that I try to generally avoid. You don't necessarily have to. I love that you modeled all this like individual like gear up top. Again, your wireframes are super clean, so really solid work there. Both of these are intriguing. I want to look at this one real quick. This is really nice. Your carbon fiber material in here shows across really well. Carbon fiber is a hard one. My first name is Norberto. Okay, perfect. Cool. Awesome portfolio, man. What would you think to take out? What should I add? For sure, no more cars. I mean, hey, your car work is beautiful, so... yeah, this one stood out to me because I'm like, damn, that carbon fiber just pops through really, really nicely. Carbon fiber's tough. So to remove from this one, probably these two. They don't stand out to the quality of work that you have now. This looks like you were kind of like experimenting with Substance Painter or something like that, but it's super cool stuff. It just necessarily doesn't super stand out. Honestly, I would probably keep this one because this is like a creative approach that you did. So I'd keep that one. The Bic lighter, I'd probably remove this one. Even though like you've got these nice like high fidelity stuff, you're carrying that over into your other projects. I wouldn't worry about keeping this. If you wanted to, you absolutely don't have to. This is that kind of thing that I'm telling you guys about. So like showing progression in your portfolios is super important. So like if you're showing that, hey, I started off here, now I'm all the way over here, that progression is totally cool to have. It's when you have like a bunch of like weird, like, so you have a really great model and then a really bad model. You don't want to mix those. You want to have a solid progression that shows that your skills improved over time and that you're still continuously working on them. Because like, I think that's what's shown here really well is like your skills are constantly improving. You're constantly working on them. This is kind of more of like a stylized piece, and I love that. You went less for realism and more for like stylized. So it shows that you're experimenting with more things. You're still keeping with the same like concepts of topology and keeping everything like cohesive and clean. And it's just a really solid portfolio. I think you did a really good job here. My biggest thing is just like, make sure you're paying attention to your textile density because there's just a couple of instances where you can tell that it was kind of missed. And those could just be older projects. Like, let's see, when was this project? This was 2 years ago. Yeah, so 2 years ago versus what? So 2 years ago, okay. 2 years ago, okay. So just in these 2 years, like, you improved a lot. I think this is definitely like one of your top pieces, I would say, for sure. You've got this really nice environment set up. The lighting looks like it's, photographed for like an auto magazine. So, super solid work. Is textile density something to do in Painter or Maya? Textile density is something you do in Maya, or Rhizome if you do Rhizome. So your textile density is the density of resolution, basically, inside of your tiles, your texture tiles. So think about it as like you're unwrapping something. And so the segment of the model that you have unwrapped, the island is like what we call them. So let me pull up an example here. So the textile density is basically the resolution of the pixels inside your UV islands. So how much resolution is inside each one of these islands? My alien is a really bad example of this because I didn't pay attention to it for this model. But generally, when you're setting up your UVs, you want to have an even textile density across your model. That way you don't go to texture one part and then you go to another part and that part's blurry, but the other part's sharp. You want to have a nice even textile density across your entire model. That's super important. It's one of the most like missed skills that I see a lot of people do that they really need to focus on because textile density is super important to learn and understand. And once you understand it, it's really not that hard. Like you're just basically saying like, okay, so I know I get the most resolution out of having my textile density set to like 76 per centimeter, or it's centimeter or meter. And so once you establish like I need every single piece to be like 76 or 105, like whatever that is, whatever that measurement ends up being, you can then apply that across your model and set up your UVs the way you want to. The tank is a really, really good example of that because my textile density across the tank is the same across everything, except for a couple pieces that I made bigger so I could get a little bit more detail out of them. But generally, you just want to figure out what that number is. I have a whole video on my YouTube for textile density, so if you want to learn that, there's a video for it. Nitesh, did you post your portfolio in the Discord by chance? And no problem, Alfonso. Thank you so much for sending in your reel or your portfolio. Let me delete this. All right, so we'll see if Nitesh responds real quick. I'm not used to like talking this much, so I'm like drying out. Chicken victim, hello. Can you change the pixel count in Maya? I need to watch this video, and I'm assuming then, in theory, bigger UV shell is the better, because, yes, you have to play a balance of how big your shell can be versus how many UV tiles you're going to use. So, if you're locked to one UV tile, you have to get creative with how you're going to make that work. And so it's kind of like a push and pull thing, right? So like if you have one UV tile, you're going to rely on using a higher resolution texture image to get the detail out of it that you want. But if you're using a smaller or like a broader array, so if you're using UDIMs and you have no limit to how many UV tiles you want, then yeah, you can increase the amount or the size and then figure out like how much you have to work with, what your computer can handle, and then from there you can go figure it out. It's one of the reasons we use these checker maps, right? These checker maps show us texel density and how they work. So you can tell on my alien, texel density wise, this is honestly bad. I made this project before I really understood texel density the way that I did. I knew I had the issue of not understanding it when I built this project, and then when I finished this project, I spent a lot of time learning it to understand it better because I didn't want to make the same mistakes I did on this one. And it's the same for any project after this. Like BD1's texel density is horrible. Shared my work in the Discord. Can you review it? I can. What name did you share it under? I'm trying to make sure everyone who's in chat gets first pickings. And Nitesh, if you're still there, let me know. Oh, my water. Matthew K. Paul, got you. Let's take a look. You might have been up at the top. What's your Discord? It's in the link in the description, or it's in my link tree on one of my other videos. I just don't have a link for it right now. Our station account. Shared my work in Discord. Can you review it? Let's see. Matthew K. Paul. I'm just looking for your thing now. Oh, there you are. Found you. Yours didn't show up as a preview for some reason. Hold on 1 second. Let's see. Continue. Let me just make sure. Work. SideQuest 3D Realm. Alright, so we'll look at your 3D stuff. Okay. So far, your portfolio is beautifully set up, but I will say it's a tad bit confusing just because of the way it's sized. I don't know if that's just the way ArtStation's doing it, but look at your 3D stuff. Cool. All right, so you got 4 pieces in here. So let's take a look. See, let's look at this one because this one's interesting. It draws my attention. So you put a lot of detail into this. I like this. Oh, Control plus, Control minus to adjust. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Yeah, this is neat. I like the modeling you did here. Your textures are super high quality. I like that. These feel a little too chrome, but that might have been what you were going for. If you were going for like iron, I would probably try to just like grunge that up a little bit. Everything else though is like super clean, really beautiful. I like the work that you put into doing the threading and the pipe connections. Those are all really beautifully done. Nice. Looks like you rendered this in like a I don't know if you modeled that scene or if that's like a stock image that you threw it on. Stuff like this, I'd be careful because like your counter's never going to be that reflective if this was rendered. So just be careful with stuff like that. Yeah, the amount of like detail that you put into your fittings and stuff, really solid work. Ooh, I like these renders. I feel like these do a really good job of selling like what you were trying to get to. So this like sort of degraded reflection is much nicer and cleaner. I feel like sells it more realistically than that really like hyper reflective one. So stuff to just kind of like be careful with. Otherwise, your attention to detail here is really nice. It would be nice to see some breakdowns like geometry-wise, UV-wise, just to see like the workflow that you did here. But otherwise, this is really pretty work. Let's see. Train station. Okay, so some environment work, nice. I'm not an environment artist, so take my opinions here with a grain of salt. The one thing that stands out to me is this feels, I don't know, this doesn't necessarily feel like it's the right resolution. I feel like this should be much smaller density-wise, so like you shouldn't really be able to see all these like massive cracks unless they were actually formed cracks, because like when we look at asphalt is really like grainy. It's like gravel. And so when we have textures that are too far out expanded like this, they tend to feel fake. And so you're going to have breaks in asphalt, of course, but the way asphalt breaks is it tends to shatter upwards and create kind of like, almost like what would look like a root going through it, where it like kind of like folds up on itself. And so that's where you'd want to see that stuff. So I think this sort of thing is just something to pay attention to. You're grunging across the scene, like everything else looks like super lived in and super nice. I feel like this just kind of takes me out of it a little bit. Your train models look really nice. I'm seeing some issues here, so this is something to pay attention to. This happens when you either subdivide your model and your UVs are getting subdivided with it and you're not retaining your edges. So it's really important when you're subdividing your geometry that you have your edges retained. And so there are settings, especially in Maya, there's a setting in there to change it from a Catmull-Clark subdivision to preserve edges and corners. It's really important to do stuff like this so you don't get this texture stretching. Because, like, otherwise, beautiful shot. It's just I noticed this, and that just kind of, like, it takes away from the illusion that this is animated. Or this is built in 3D. Like, otherwise, this is a really clean shot. The detail work that you've got in here, the rocks feel like rocks, like piles of rocks. Again, we're dealing with this, like, low-resolution road here. These are just the things you want to be careful about, especially as an environment artist. You want to use higher resolution images, whether they're tileable or whatever. They're really important to have. So just stuff to pay attention to, because like you have this really clean model here, and then you have this super low resolution texture here. That's where you want to be careful. Same kind of issue here. It looks like your UV is just getting distorted, either from smoothing or maybe something happened with the UV there. But overall, like, the scene is really cool. Like, you put together a really nice scene. I love the mood of it. It feels like something that you would experience in, like, London or something like that. Just, like, that, like, dark, moody day. So, really good job on the scene itself. Not too many critiques otherwise there. Yeah, super beautiful scene. Let's look at your gun. This is nice. I love the detail with the brushwork that you've got here. So like your bullets are disappearing under the brushwork. This rifle, the model is really nice. I like that you have your separation of materials. The grip, I feel like, is the weakest point on this model, because grips themselves are never going to be like flat and straight like that. They're always like curved to like human ergonomics. So when you do a grip like this and you just have it like a flat extruded like item, it's really important to be careful with like how these are shaped, because they'll come across as looking very fake. So you have like super realistic, and then you get this grip and it's like, whoa, what happened there? So just be careful with stuff like that. It's okay, like the buttstock looks fine. Like this stuff can generally, you can get away with stuff like that, but the grip is really important because you want to have those finger grooves and stuff like that. And like that stuff's hard to model and it's a pain to model, but it takes your model to that next level. I like the detail work. You got the dial meter marks, everything like that. Like really beautiful job texturing this. It holds up really well on photo. Yeah, super nice. The only other thing I have here, when you're doing stuff like this, be careful because it looks like you used either scanned or like super low poly assets. So when you're doing stuff like that, just be careful because it does, like initially it doesn't come across, but then like you look a little bit further into it and you're like, why does that pine cone look like that? So just be a little careful when you're doing stuff like that. I like how you have the bullets hiding beneath the brush. I think that's a really nice touch. There's more in the train section. Just scroll down more. Is there? Oh, okay. You do have more like breakdowns and stuff. Yeah, I mean, your texturing job was really well. It went really well on these. So you used UDIMs. Okay. Yeah. You paid really good attention to like the way rust builds up and the way things kind of get dirty over time. So good job there. Just a couple of those weird little UV issues or the things to avoid. Like I don't have any problems with your textures. I think your textures look really good. With the paint tear here, maybe spending a little bit more time on the depth maps that kind of help bring the paint scarring out. So like you have to remember like paint is laid over metal. So like it's going to kind of like tear and like bend outwards a little bit. So that's kind of stuff to pay attention to a little bit. You can't really see it well there. I don't know if you can see it well anywhere. Yeah, kind of hard to tell. You had the same UV issue here. So that's just something to be careful with. But yeah, I mean, you did a lot of really solid work on this. This is a really, like, this shows that you did a ton of work. So, again, just killer job setting all of this up. Environments are hard. There's a lot of detail that you have to put into them. That's why I don't do them. It's just because, like, there's so much work you have to put into them. Take a look at your car here. We're gonna, let's see. This looks really nice. Your panel lines show up really well. Your geometry doesn't look like it's deforming at all. Super clean. You can tell you spent a lot of time like making sure all the curves and everything were really well put together. Your material on the tire is really nice. Yeah, that holds up really nicely. I like this portion that you did here, like this rock. Just this, like, this is the kind of simple stuff I tell people about. Like, it's really cool to do something simple like this, and all you got to do is put a plane under your car and just make sure it's not with it, or it's outside of the frame of view, and render it out, and it looks like the car is in a realistically placed environment. Like, that's a really nice touch. I like that. That's a really nice render, if that's an actual render. Yeah, okay, so I see what you did. So you're just playing with like different environments here. The lighting comes across really well in that one. This one feels a little bit fake. I don't know what's going on with the lighting there. It's almost like there's too much of a blue tint coming from this side. But otherwise, beautiful project. The model looks really nice. It would be... This is one of those things I would show the wireframe on. Because I feel like your wireframe probably looks really clean. And you're almost doing yourself a disservice by not showing it. About 230 UV tiles there, yeah. It's a lot. There's a lot that goes into environments. I don't think people realize that. So, really good job, really clean. Yeah, your portfolio is really solid. It would be nice to see some more projects in here, obviously, but I don't know what you're working on now. But what you have so far is really good. All right. So we got you. Oh, yours did show up. It just showed up twice for some reason. Delete. Okay. Anybody else in chat who I haven't done their portfolio yet, or I'm just going to resume the list? We like trains. Yes, we do, Mr. Blazing Man. Drink some water while I got a chance. All right, nobody's speaking up, so let's go. We're gonna go with Carick, or is it Carick? Carick. All right, Carick. Where did my browser window go? There it is. Okay. All right, Carick. Cool. All right. I think I remember seeing yours at one point. Let's see. Okay, so right off the bat with this one. This one's really hard to tell. So like I know this is like an air conditioning unit, right? And so I like that you tried to physically base it in reality. You kind of lose that though. So like up here it looks okay. You can tell you've got this like blurry background that's kind of like low resolution. So with stuff like this, make sure when you're doing it that you're putting in a really high resolution image. Don't rely on your HDRI. This is where you'd want to comp some sort of material or some sort of like image in and actually like really make sure it's a high resolution, because then you have this really sharp asset and this really low resolution and it just throws everything off. So off the bat here, your rust is a bit crazy. The reason I say that is because it looks like somebody just took a paintbrush and splattered the rust on there. You want to think with your textures, you want to think about how in reality they kind of like things fall apart, right? Trying to get a portfolio for next time. I feel I'm the most inexperienced one and we'll have all the portfolios here. We'll all, oh no, don't like, remember, I don't want you guys to think of that this way, like, right? Like think of these as just ways to improve yourself and ways to learn and figure out how you can do better. And like, even though you may be like early on in your career, nothing wrong with that. I want to make sure that whether you are just starting or you are seasoned, that the way I review you is going to be beneficial to you as a person and as an artist, not so much to be like, oh, look at your work is super like low quality or whatever. So no matter like what area in your journey you are as an artist, I'd love to see your work and I'd love to be able to help you and kind of guide you on how you can improve your work. So definitely don't think about it as like being inexperienced or worried about being like made fun of, because that's not going to happen. Definitely want to make sure that you just feel like you can get like the best out of this as possible, because like this is for you guys. But back to this. So the way Rust kind of works is it kind of starts and it builds, right? So Rust, if you want to think of it as kind of like a it's a good way, like kind of like a fluid almost. The way like fluid displaces, Rust kind of displaces. So like when Rust gets into a piece of metal under like paint, it starts to grow out and like break things apart and just start degrading the surface. And so with an air conditioner specifically, Rust drips. You get drip rust. And so you have the components that are creating condensation that are dripping and the paint's degrading and tripping and falling apart. So we want to show that with our textures. We want to show that the actual like materials themselves are breaking down and breaking apart instead of just kind of slapping a texture on there and calling it good. That's the biggest thing here, is that you have these cool textures. You have this like paint chipping that you're trying to go for here. It just feels so out of place because it's not happening where you would want it to happen. Because the reality is these brackets, this would be rusting down. These brackets would be rusting underneath. They'd be falling apart. That's the kind of stuff you want to pay attention to. I mean, I have photos I could show you on Discord. It took UE5, but it's not a portfolio in it. No, don't worry. Like, don't stress about it today. But for the next one, maybe throw together an art station. We can take a look at it. And then, as always, like in the Discord, guys, you guys are in here. So, like, if you're in the Discord and you guys have questions, you want me to review something on the fly, just tag me. Let me know. I don't mind. The portfolio reviews don't have to all be these like massive structured projects like this. So combat tanker, okay, cool. So you did texture this one. So this is a cool like moody render. The problem is I feel like your model almost gets lost in it. So we want to be careful with stuff like this, because like you've got this really nice dark render or this like environment that you used, but your model's like almost just disappearing into the foreground where it should be like front and center. So less lighting, the less you have like way too little lighting on this thing. And so this is where you can kind of play with things like bounce light. You can have like maybe a rainy surface. Maybe it just rained and there's light bouncing off the bottom of the concrete and like bouncing up and illuminating the bottom of the vehicle. So just paying attention to the way light works in scenes like this are really going to help you sell your model a little bit better. Let's see. Model-wise, it looks pretty good. It's for sure a little low poly, but it depends on what you're actually going for here. Let's see. I think for me the biggest thing here is it just feels really boxy. So vehicles like this, like military vehicles, like they are boxy in a sense, but they always have like curves to them. So if we do like a So if we look at a combat vehicle, right, like just kind of like trying to match that vibe, when you look at these things, like they have these curves and these like bends and these like deformations, whereas like your model here it feels very sharp and boxy. So when you're doing stuff like this, you want to pay attention to how you're handling the curvature of surfaces and how surfaces are kind of like flowing. Again, we're talking about like silhouette here. You want your silhouette to like make sense. And you want this thing to stand out and not just feel like it was, made in a 3D application. Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fake reality here and show like this wasn't made in a 3D application. Getting comfortable with the concept of things like this being attached to your mesh are really important. Wireframe of the Audi uploaded my ArtStation account, by the way. The entire environment made it 16. Being switched to. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Very cool. Nice. I guess I opened the wrong link that you sent. I'm sorry, but at least I got a good view of the stuff you've got. So yeah, on this one, just being a little bit more creative with the way your surfaces flow and your edges work, I think is really important. Let's look at Canon. I can see that you're kind of improving your modeling over time here, so I'm trying not to be too hard on you on that one. These are kind of cool. They're like a Canon chariot thing. I like all the detail that you put into this. This shows that you put a lot of time in like modeling different pieces, so super killer job there. The thing that I notice here is just the lack of like variety presentation wise. Like you have a lot of really cool renders, but you don't show a wireframe, you don't show the breakdowns. You have some really dark ones too. Like this is really dark. I would probably leave something like this out just because you can kind of make out what you've got going on here, but it just feels like it's unnecessary. Just spend some time, like, show off your detail. Don't be afraid to show off your detail, but at the same time, too, like, show off your other workflow pieces, because we don't get to see much else of this, aside from the fact that you modeled these. Let's see. Let's look at this last one, drone weapon. Okay, so here you did a little bit better at paying attention to, like, your silhouette, so you've got some really nice shape here. I like that. I like that you kind of like designed this after a bug. So that's really cool. These renders, I would personally remove these. They're not really helping you. They don't help your model at all. Like when it comes to showing off something like this, you want to really focus on your model. Throwing it in HDRI backlit backgrounds like this doesn't really help anything. It doesn't help sell you at all as an artist. So being careful with that. This one is, again, it's kind of okay, but you just have this low resolution image and it doesn't really sell anything. It's okay to put these things in regular dark environments or regular just like lightbox environments to showcase the modeling work you did and to showcase your texturing work. Like you don't have to put them on images like this. And I feel like this is kind of a very like, it's almost like an inexperienced thing to do, just doing stuff like this. So we want to avoid that. And you have these different variations in lighting. You have a lot going on here that I would try to refine this a lot, because like you have an interesting model and you could showcase this model, but instead you kind of threw it on all these just random images. And it just, I don't know, it almost cheapens the product a little bit, and that's not what you want to do with your model, right? You want to showcase what you did. And so here, all I'm seeing are these like low resolution backgrounds and this interesting looking model that I don't get to see much of. So that's something to be really careful with. Let's see. Also, got me some doubt. I have to ask. Hopefully, you saw Legends of the Guardians by Zack Snyder. Wait, by Snyder? Legends of the Guardians. So, how they made such type of cinematic renders, phase rendering. Legends of the Guardians. Is that the owl movie? The one with the owls? Legends of the Guardians. Oops. Legends of the Guardians. This one? I love that movie. I actually was trying to rewatch that a couple weeks ago. I want to ask you, hopefully you saw Legends of the Guardians. I didn't know Zack Snyder made that. I just learned something. It says type of cinematic renders, please, rendering and composition. So, it's been a hot minute since I watched this movie. And I'm talking like 10 years. Yeah, it's honestly been almost 15 years since I watched this movie. I remember at the time this was like a cinematic like marvel because like it was pushing the boundaries of what an animated movie would look like. I couldn't tell you much about it because I've never watched any of like the behind the scenes stuff, so I don't really know. I do remember seeing something about I think it was Mental Ray at the time. And how they used Mental Ray for this project, but I don't know enough about it to speak to it. I do know that movie still holds up better than anything like that was animated in the same time frame. But all right, so that's it for Carick. Go ahead and delete that message. Delete. All right, Mr. Pato. All right. So you look like you do a lot of character work. So take my advice with a grain of salt here. I'm not a character artist. I will try to look at your hard surface stuff more. I like your creative projects that you have. This frog stands out to me. Super creative and fun. Let's see. Stylized Joanna to create this 3D frog. Oh, inspired by Joanna to create this 3D frog. This is neat. I like this. He almost feels like he's made out of porcelain. This is really fun. This is cool because it was just like a little creative project that you threw together, but like it showcases like, you know, your creativity as a person. So I think this is really fun. I think it was really simple. It's okay to do simple stuff like this in your portfolio because what this does is this showcases your creativity over anything. So, like, you don't have to have these projects that take hundreds and hundreds of hours. You can have these simple little projects that are, like, thrown together and just, like, something that you were inspired to do one day. And, like, they can come across really well. Like, this is the first piece that really stood out to me. And I love that it's the piece that you probably didn't spend a ton of time on, but you just modeled it because you wanted to model it because it looks really cool. I love that. Let's see. Let's look at this cat that's standing out to me. Okay, so you did like a cat character holding a paintball gun. This one's neat. The thing that really throws me off, though, is the fur. The fur feels very 3D. So I do love you've got these like floating hairs. So with animals especially, they always have like little hairs that are just floating and attached to their coat for no reason. It's really cool that you did that. The problem is I think that the reflective map that you have on your hair is just kind of like making it feel flat. So that's something to pay attention with when you do hair. And like your model looks great. Like all your topology, everything there is good. Looks like you rigged this too. It's just the hair that throws me off here on this one. But really solid little project. Let's look at this hard surface helmet because that's more something I can speak to. So this looks like just a sci-fi helmet. This almost reminds me of like one of the Mortal Kombat. I forget which characters those ones were. But super solid design. Geometry looks pretty good. I don't know why that's flickering like that. Maybe fix that render. I don't really know what happened there. But your geo looks good. this being a low poly asset, so you wouldn't want to have all these supporting edge loops. So like for what the silhouette you're trying to get, it looks like you accomplished it really well. And it looks really good when it's lit and rendered. So you did a really good job at keeping these forms and not losing them when you render, because like a lot of times with low poly work, like you can generally tell really easily that it's low poly. And so you did a really good job of not having that be an issue here. Trying to see, I want to look at your wireframe again. Yeah, so those tentacles on the back are a little bit higher polygon than the top of the helmet, but yeah, I mean, your materials kind of help sell it, so really good job on there. You did this in ZBrush and Marmoset? Okay. Again, I can't speak to hard surface modeling in ZBrush because I have no idea what I'm doing in that application. Let's see, but I'm not professional like you and others, and my model non-texture, and it looks like beginner work. Nitesh, that's totally okay. So like, yeah, I do this for everyone. This isn't to showcase like who's more professional or anything like that. It's to help people learn how to get their art to another level, to like upgrade their art. And so it doesn't matter if your art is not good. These sort of sessions are meant to help you as an artist. So if you want to get them reviewed, we won't have time to do yours in this one, unfortunately, but in future ones, it's a perfect time to get some critiques on what you're doing and what you can do to better your portfolio. And since you're in the Discord now, I think you joined, you can always ask too if you need some like guidance on something. There's never any problems with that. So you did a rifle here. Super solid. I mean, it looks like you got all the forms of the rifle really well. I wouldn't show that just because you don't have the interior of the magazine modeled out. So something like that's probably better. Something like this, it would be really nice to see at least some sort of material on and a wireframe, but your modeling looks really solid. It's just kind of hard to tell if like this was all Boolean, if you actually focused on the topology here. I know with Marmoset Viewer, let's see. Oh, that's nice. I know we can kind of show wireframe here. So your topology looks pretty good. Yeah, especially because it looks like you did low poly for this one too. Super good job. With guns like this though, pay attention to the way they're built. They're generally not separate pieces, so this is one piece. All of this together is like one general piece, so you don't want to have them multiple pieces like this. It'll save you a little bit on your scene like heaviness, and it'll kind of help you learn how to flow a lot of these forms together. So just something to be careful with, because like all of this, like these three pieces right here should be one piece. This should be attached to this because they're all pieces that are welded together. And so, especially with an asset where you don't have a lot of budget to like have all these pieces, you need to be a little bit more aware of how to keep those in one solid piece. I did make a post and finished art. Just want to see what others might think. Would love to model a gun. Yeah, I haven't done a gun. I mean, I did an ODST pistol, but I haven't finished it. Someday I will. We're just being better. We all at this stage once it's being better. Yeah, absolutely. Like you will be at a beginner stage at one point in your life. Where like I didn't get to where I am overnight. Like I've spent 15 years doing this. So like these portfolio reviews I feel are super helpful for people who are trying to learn how to take their art to the next level. And you know, like I'm no like 100% expert at all of this. I'm still learning a lot of this myself. But if I can share my knowledge with people and help them grow their skills, that's the goal here. So that was Martin Bronski's. Thank you so much for sending in your portfolio. Let's take a look at Maryberry now. We have a little bit of time for a couple more. And then how many more are left? So there's a couple more left. I think what I'll do is I may do a video on these last few. That way if I miss any, I will do a video on them. So if you guys didn't get yours answered tonight and you're going through this VOD, I will do a video for you. So I will do that. Okay, we're gonna go through Maryberry's portfolio. She said hers was a mix. She does 2D and 3D stuff, so we're gonna look at her 3D stuff. And I've seen her portfolio before, so she's Got some cool stuff in here. This character is really nice. I do feel like some of the things that... Oh, you can't click on these? Okay. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. One of the things here, anatomy is going to be really important to focus on. And then texturing. We really want to pay attention to like how these materials actually are set up in real life and how they work. So I feel like this model is just all one piece and you just textured the clothing on, which is, it's fine. It's something to start with, of course. But in the future, when you're working on projects like this, you want to make sure this is a separate piece, like in a separate object, so you can either simulate that or sculpt it, however you want to do it. So something super important to kind of like think about in the future. This looks really nice. I wish I could click on these and like actually see them, but I can't. This is really nice. Again, we have the same issue with the backgrounds. We just don't want to render on the backgrounds like this. It just, unless you're doing something hyper photoreal that's going to blend into that background and that background is going to be beautifully done, don't do it. Just stay away from it. This is really cool. I think this is like a little like assassin's kit or something. I like that. It's nice. Cool little Pokeball. It seems like two of your biggest things to focus on right now, currently, Maryberry, is just texturing and lighting. The shoe looks really nice. This is actually, this stands out because the shoe's really nice. It's almost stylized, but it's also almost realistic. It's like a weird in-between, but I kind of dig it. I kind of like it. Pieces like this, I would leave this out. It doesn't really help you. Same thing with something like this. It's just very simple, and you've got this background again. It looks like you may be kind of doing something with like this environment and like this, but it's kind of hard to tell. With portfolios, again, you want to make sure that all of your stuff is like in some sort of like organized fashion, right? We just want to have like a folder that we click on and we can see our stuff and be like, okay, cool, that's where that is. Or that's what that is. Like, that's what that project is. I know this is your most recent one. You did a really good job on this one. We talked about the fabric material on this and how up close it doesn't hold up as much, but far away it looks really great. You did an awesome job recreating the concept art in the original model. I think the only thing that you don't... Oh, no, you did the tail too. Yeah, so like this was a really nice project. I really love what you did here. Again, same issue here with the backdrop. Just get rid of that. Stick with some sort of environment like this. What I like to do when I have these kind of like drooped backdrop environments, what I'll do is I'll just rotate the environment at whatever frame I'm looking at. So if I'm trying to get like a side profile, I will just rotate that environment along with all of the cameras or the lights if I need to. And then I'll just kind of like take my shots and just move that around. That way you don't have to worry about having your HDRI visible. I always recommend just turn the HDRIs off. But Mary, your portfolio is coming together really well. Some of these older pieces you may look at removing soon because I know your quality of work is changing. And it's really nice that you're showing this stuff. Again, just maybe organizing it in a little bit of a better fashion in the future, but otherwise it's looking really good. Okay, got time for a couple more, hopefully. I'm not trying to speed run because I don't want anyone to like miss having good critiques. So we're going to look at Pri Kumari. Okay, perfect. All right, so right off the bat, you got some cool stuff. This one drew my eye instantly. I really like this. I really like the design of the frog. Super cool. The texturing and the colors that you have going on here. It's really hard to do stuff like this with all this color because like sometimes it can end up looking really cheap, but I think you did really well here. I think where this piece loses a little bit of like its standing power is with the leaves. You can tell that they're low polygon. I would have smoothed these just to smooth them and make them look like actual like plant leaves. I think that would have sold this a little bit better, but I love the design of your frog. You've got this really nice subtle skin detail and your roughness map is playing really well to the light. Yeah, I love your texturing on this. It's really nice. You played with color really well. These renders look very nice. I really love these. The gray with all the color popping through, it really shows like everything that you did. So super nice, super well done. Beautiful piece. I like the frog. You know, again, it's okay to have like simple objects and simple characters like this or creatures because like you can showcase different skills. And I think you've showcased texture really well here. I think you have this really cool like painted thing. I think the only thing that would be really interesting to see, and this would probably be a style choice, is some sort of like height map that shows that this is painted on the frog and not necessarily its skin. But if it's supposed to be the frog's skin, then you know that's what it was. I just think it would be interesting to have like the actual brush strokes would be kind of nice. Um, that's just like a style thing to me. Otherwise, this is a really cool project. It looks your mesh looks really nice. Your texture maps look really good. Looks like your UV was really solid. Your seam placement is really nice. You can't even see that seam on the arm, I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, you did a great job at hiding your seams. So, very good job. Very good job on that one. Any Substance Painter tips for realistic texturing? I have a couple videos on that. I think I need to do another one soon because I've kind of changed the way I texture. But really, it's just layering different levels of like things like grunge and rust and dirt and paint. And then really understanding how things like metallic roughness work and how different materials interact with each other. Those are really important things to learn. So like texturing is one of those things like observation is really important, and then understanding how materials work together, really important. When you finish the model, do people shade smooth everything? My understanding is this explodes poly count kind of ruins stuff. So it depends. Sorry, I got really dry again. Subdivision, if you're doing a sub D workflow, yeah, you'll shade it or you'll smooth it. You won't necessarily shade smooth it. So I know Blender has like its weird little ways of like kind of like faking smoothing. If you're doing a video game asset, no, you won't do that. If you're doing a sub D asset, yes, you do want to do that because that's what you're playing towards. Like sub D modeling is designed for you to get close to it and like really look at it and like just be able to like infinitely expand how complicated that model is or how dense that model is, so you get all that detail in there. Whereas like with a game asset, you only have so far you can go, and if you smooth it, it's going to trash the entire asset because triangles don't smooth very well. So it totally depends on your workflow. Let's look at this crab. That's cool. That's fun. I like your little animation that you have going on there. That's a lot of fun. This one is a little rough just because you can tell it was just kind of sculpted. So the biggest thing with the crab is crabs are very kind of buggish, right? When you finished, wait, did I kind of ruin stuff? Did I miss something? Hold on. Give critiques, otherwise please refrain. Oh, that's just that auto message thing. That's weird. Okay, my chat thing screwed up. So, with stuff like this, you want to make sure that you're modeling in the detail of like how these joints actually connect to the body. So when you look at crabs, between the joints on a crab's like arms and ligaments, they have this like translucent material, and it's like a little folding material. So like if you ever go out to eat crab or something like that, if you just take the joint and you kind of fold it, you can see how it like changes color as it folds, and there's like this like white creamy kind of like coloring in between. So that's something to focus on here, because like right here it looks very much like it was just sculpted into one object and you don't have that transition. So if you're going for like realism here, that's something I would take a look at. I love the little details that you have in here, all this like painted texture that you're doing. It's really cool. It certainly seems like your style. This is gorgeous. Just when it comes to stuff like that, just pay attention to like how you're modeling that stuff, because it can come across as like fake, and that's not generally what we want. Because like your rotational looks really good. Like honestly, the only thing that throws me off is just these joint colors. And even if you wanted to keep the red, just add some sort of texture inside there so you can tell that that is like some sort of moving joint, because that's going to be what's really important to that. Otherwise, I really love that piece. The stylized truck is really cool too. That's super cool. I love that. I think my only critique there is the tire goes through the bumper. So watch for stuff like that. Your texturing on this is super solid, though. I love how you play with color. A lot of artists are afraid to play with color. I am one of them because I think color is terrifying. But I love the way that you're playing with color and you're not afraid to use these like super vibrant colors, and you're doing it in a way that makes them look really well and really grounded. So super awesome job with that. I love how colorful your portfolio is, and I love how you're trying different things. This Hulkbuster, that's a really cool model. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. This is a nice breakdown. This is really cool. I tend to just not like seeing wireframes this way because you only get a peek, and I'd like to see the whole wireframe to just establish like what's going on here. Kind of like this in a way. Dang, you used a lot of UDIM tiles for this. Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. I feel like you almost used too many, because I feel like you've got a lot of unused space here. So this is something important to pay attention to, guys. If you've got these spaces, use them. UDIMs are notoriously hard on your VRAM and your PC in general, just because like you're loading so much data in. So the more you can reduce that data, the better. So like this could have come down to like organizational, but having these like in one of these tiles that has all this open empty space is going to be really important. This is why I manually lay out my UVs, because I don't like auto layout. It tends to not do a great job. So just something to keep in mind. I mean, otherwise the model itself is beautiful. Like you did a great job on it. Your texturing feels stylized, but also like you still have that like grounded in reality feeling. So really cool. Good job on that one. Overall, your portfolio is really solid and clean. I think just a couple of things to kind of help yourself. More pieces like this. This is a really great. This and this are your two top pieces for sure. They're beautiful. They stand out really well, and they look great. So, good job, Kumari. Let's see. You can use soften edge / harden edge without adding poly count to smoothing. Using soften harden edge though, there are quick ways of doing it. Is painful selecting. Yeah, so that is a way to do it. It's personally not a way that I do it, just because I'd rather it be geometry based instead of like tricking it. I tend to not try to trick on my models just because like I want them to be built in accordance to like how they need to be built and how they're going to work with subdivision. So I don't tend to use hard and soften edge just because it doesn't work across multiple applications. So if you harden all your edges and pull it in the Substance Painter, it doesn't transfer. So they're just going to be weird blocky messes because Substance Painter doesn't know how to like handle that, because that process is different across like say Maya or 3ds Max or Blender. So they don't generally carry over to other applications, which is why I don't generally do it. I'm going to make room for one more. Let's just do... Alright, we're going to do Tamuzu, because I know he wanted me to. I don't know if he's here, but I know he really wanted me to do this. So we're gonna poke Tamuzu today. The rest of them, guys, if we didn't get to your portfolio review today, I'm going to leave them in this channel, and I will do a video for you so I can get those finished off. I'll be here in this place. FBX helps. Tried to import into Blender and it works. Okay, so it does kind of help. Yeah, I assume it depends on like the file format and stuff like that. All right, so Tamuzu has a very unique style that I have liked since I found him, or since he found me / I found him. I don't remember how that worked, but either way, I love the stuff he does. So we're gonna critique his stuffs. A lot of the stuff he does is very like kind of like grounded, like trying to ground it in reality. So like you get a lot of these like interesting camera artifacts, and I think I love that. I love how it plays here. You can definitely tell this is kind of a weird model. I want to see if I can find better views of it. Yeah, so you can tell this was like a really basic model. But this also goes into how like you can have a really like basic rough model, and if you set your scene up lighting wise and camera wise really well, like you can kind of hide that stuff. Otherwise, these are cool renders. I know these are some of your older works. I just like to poke fun at them. Let's see. Let's do some of your more recent stuff. So what is this? Booster strikes, a bunch of booster engines. Oh, okay, so you got 2 little astronauts hanging in there. So it's like an abandoned ship. Love the concept. I just feel like it's way too dark. You don't get to see a lot of this stuff. So like you can make out some of this form, but this stuff is all lost to the void. So something like this, a little bit too dark. Cool piece though. Again, wanting to see like breakdowns and stuff. Breakdowns are super important to me anyway. I always like seeing them. I think it looks like you redid the kind of the lighting here. So you can see it a little bit better there, but again, still kind of dark. Instead of looking like boosters, they almost look like musical instruments coming out of the void. So it's kind of hard to tell like what's going on there. Again, I think this is some of your older work, so I'm not going to critique it too much. This is the first thing I saw of his. I love this. This looks very grounded in reality. It's a very interesting design, and you know it plays really well together. It's like a giant drone. I love the moodiness of the scene. The material quality is just super nice. Again, playing with the same camera stuff that you always play with. Like this stuff looks really great. These subtle details, like these like weird etched designs in the front, like these are important details. These little wires that are supposedly hanging these fins together, like just super cool, clean work. I like that you broke this one down a little bit so you at least have your kind of like your mesh view. And like you can see like all of this is texture, camera, and lighting work, and it's just gorgeous. Super good job. I think my only critique here is that I feel like the sky is just way too gray. Maybe add some like clouds and break it up a little bit. It could be just like you can kind of see some like breakup in there, unless that's just my display. But otherwise, like the attention to detail, the little pins, everything like that, like really well done there. Whoopsie. The drone, this is the first model that I think he actually asked for like questions on. And this is where you started playing with like the environment and stuff that you were rendering in. So I really like that you did this one, because it really kind of grounded this thing in reality. Because it's a super weird design, right? Like you have this spherical drone, but like it just feels like it was left on this step. And then having these different like, this is what I'm talking about too, like with the blurring your environment. You can have a low resolution environment, but if you blur it and you add some motion to your scene, it's really going to help just sell that a little bit better, instead of just having this like, if you just had this drone sitting there and this environment not blurred, it just wouldn't work as well. Instead, you have this motion that makes it feel more real and more like grounded in reality. Same here, and you get this like distortion around it. So very good work with the camera. Much better at using cameras in 3D than I am. I'm an idiot at cameras, so I give you a lot of credit there. The skull. This was like one of your first ZBrush projects, so super cool. I love the way this turned out. I like how you deformed the actual like anatomy and made it feel more like hard surface asset, like this belonged on a robot or something. So super clean. I think the biggest thing that's lacking from your portfolio is just the breakdowns. So like you have your UV here. Oh no, here we go. We got wireframe and UV. So you're starting to do it. So JK, I take it back. This still kills me. You posted this to Instagram and I saw the thumbprint. I was like, oh, God. There's crazy detail. So super, super solid job. If you guys don't follow Tamuzu, he's somebody that I've learned a lot from. Especially like composition wise. Thank you, dear boy Tamuzu. Yes. Yeah, super solid. This was the one that you just finished, so really clean. I know Tamuzu does a lot of his I think most of his textures procedurally. So like these are all procedural. So like these aren't hand painted by any means. And you can do a lot with procedural textures to make things look very hyper realistic. And I think he shows it really well here. Very clean model. This also goes along the line of like adding very simple backgrounds to your projects. Like you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to build these massive environments and like put everything together. Like you can just throw it on a plate of rusted metal like this and still have really nice, clean portfolio renders. So overall, super good job, man. I love seeing what you do and like all the experimental stuff that you do, and I think you're doing great. I like that you're finally showing some breakdowns of your projects because that's super important. And I know you just started school too, so I'm excited to see you learning all the new things, especially for when you get started in Maya. So, but all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna call it there. I'm gonna go ahead and aim to please. Yes. Delete Tamuzus. So it looks like I've got portfolios. Let's see. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so I've got 9 more portfolios to do. I'm not going to do them tonight just because I have run out of time. This has taken the whole 3 hours. I knew it was going to take a while. I will do a video finishing off the rest of them. So keep an eye out for that. It just takes me a little bit longer because I have to actually record the video and produce it and do all that stuff. So I will get the rest of those done. And I think in the future we might limit these to like 15 instead of just open like this. This is my first time doing this, so mistakes were bound to be made. But I appreciate everyone who sent one in. Again, if it didn't get done, we will get it done in a video for you. I will try to get that out by next week. And yeah, just again, thank you guys so much for sending these in. Thank you for spending the time to me while we went through this and going through all this. I appreciate y'all being here. This will be the last stream for this week, and then next week I'll be live on Monday. And back working on the tank if I'm still working on it, which I probably will be. But yeah, thanks again, guys. I hope this was helpful. If you have further questions and you're still in the Discord, please make sure to ask them. I will answer them as best as I can. That way you guys don't feel like you're just left without any answers. And then if you're in the Discord already and you do spend the time in there, just, again, feel free to tag me. Ask me if you want me to look at something, review something. I've got no problem doing that. I want to be able to help you guys as much as possible because that's the goal here. That's why I do what I do. So, yeah, thank you guys so much. And I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream today. And you guys have a wonderful and safe weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye-bye.